Well, competing. What did you read, Prude?
Yeah, he says competing with Timcast for the 8 p.m. slot. Bold move. I can appreciate. At least Gio and I know how to wear suits properly. Oh,
I don't think any one of our nobody in our audience is watching the Timcast unless like someone comes on. Like I think I watched a little bit of the Yay one, but
I watched a little bit of that, and I watched Oren McIntyre's 2 appearances, and that's about the only Tim Pool I have seen.
I watched the Oren ones, but I watched the super clips of the Oren ones.
Oh yeah, no. As soon as Oren posted on his channel, I just commented. I said thank you, so I don't have to listen to like the other 2.5 hours of those people talking. But I mean, it was so funny. It's like, yeah, I'm standing here with this Roger Stone tweets. It's like, yeah, I'm out here. I think they said Mar-a-Lago or whatever. Or like, here I am with Beanie Man, and he's wearing a gray suit, not really tailored, and he's got both buttons buttoned, which you don't do. And then of course he's wearing his signature hat. I get it. You're bald, man. Like you got to do whatever you got to do for your brand or dignity. But come on.
Yeah.
You'd think that maybe, just maybe, you'd have a producer who would be like, "Hey, man, that's not a good look." But I guess, does he have a female producer anymore, or someone that works over there with him, like someone with a fashion sense?
He did. I think it was they were dating, because I watched a good portion. By good portion, I mean like 2+ hours of the Adam Kriegler drama break. See, I wish deep down inside, I kind of wish we were like Casino for the Year, right? But I know that would never. I don't have the constitution to be. I'm not like PPP, man. PPP is fearless when it comes to taking down people. But
I don't have the constitution to talk about something as brain rotting as online drama. It's not my soul. So I just thank God that we're not that, and that someone else can do that for us, because it's not in my gut, it's not in my heart, not in my constitution.
So but apparently, so there is a woman, and that was a big source of drama between him and Adam Kriegler. So Adam Kriegler, if everyone's interested, did this whole dossier on Tim Pool, as I call him, Tim Gruel, and it was really bad. Like apparently Tim Pool is like a huge hairline.
Hello everyone. Just get a hair transplant. I mean, get a wig. I'd respect.
Who? Which one of us?
I think he's talking about Tim. You and I have hair.
Oh yeah. No, but apparently Tim Pool, like he's like super, like it's not. I mean, he's super defensive in real life about his hair. But like people said, just shave. Like you could do the. I don't know, man. Like, but yeah. So apparently Tim Pool, he did a lot of like business dealings with people that fell by the wayside, and like it's just I understand having a brand, because like say if which actually I don't know, maybe I should. This would bring back trauma from the BTR days, because I'm too lazy to change. Maybe I'll change halfway through. I'll change my earplugs. But no, like because if I wore a suit, right, then I'd have the fez. But the fez I think is more appropriate. But no, anyways, yeah, Tim Pool. What can I say?
We're only doing this because before the air we were talking about like personal stuff, and we're like, well, we're not going to open up in media res in normal conversation like we usually do. There's no theme. Well, there's theme music that we put together like a year and a half ago. At this point, the show's been going that long.
But I wanted to download from the AI one that what was his name? Supercar.
Something like that. I'm gonna have to find it. I did save the AI images he used for us.
We have to play the song.
I quite like this. I am a fan. I am. I might use that for other official purposes.
Oh yeah,
I thought it was really good. Thank you, Cody. Appreciate it.
But no, I mean, well, let me ask you about like some personal. How was your Easter?
My Easter was great. Pascha was wonderful. I had remarkably less time to do. I thought I was going to get some stuff out that I had worked on or pre-recorded or pre-written.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, stuff came out for the OGC last week, but I mean, I left work. I went to church all throughout Holy Week, and then we prepped on Saturday to go. Had a 3.5 hour liturgy in the morning. We read a lot from the Old Testament, and then we just got to. I just crashed in the parish hall, and then prepped around 11 o'clock for the music, and yeah, it was wonderful. Just it was fantastic. Everyone likes Holy Friday and the Lamentations. For me, it's always Thursday night when it's the Passion Gospels being read, because it's like there's some music in between all the readings, but it's just back to back to back the reason why you're here, which is of course the Passion and the Resurrection. So yeah, my Pascha was wonderful. I have absolutely no words to express my joy, and it was really well worth to take the time off and to not do anything and to dedicate myself for that respect. So yes, so regardless of whether or not your Easter was a while ago or just yesterday, Christ is risen, and I hope that you all enjoy the good news. So yeah, it was a great time.
That's good, man.
Yeah, it was the first Paschal service I ever served in the choir, so it was like a really it was a marathon. I spent Monday not really talking at all. My voice was more or less shot. It was great. So everything went well.
That's good, man.
Yeah. So what have I missed? That's partially why the episode is like. Anyways, welcome to episode 88 of the Digital Archipelago. What's happening? Because I have no idea. I've been more or less off the timeline for a week.
You know, I mean, great. Nothing ever happens.
I've been told that nothing ever happens on right-wing Twitter, ever.
But let's not talk about drama. Let's just stick to the news. Because like I feel like if we talk about drama, then it's
like inviting. It's manifesting drama.
Yeah.
It was. I try not to do it.
Well, because no matter what, you're gonna catch a friend. You know what I mean? In the crosshairs. So, it's best not to talk about those things. Yeah.
No, but I mean, like you just got to live with it, right? I forgot to put out a tweet that we were live, but we're streaming to Twitter anyways.
Yeah. But no, let's. Should we cover news, like actual news, not just like petty drama? What's happening in Rafa? I hear Rafa is about to get invaded. Do you know
that's already begun from what I saw. There was headlines in the morning that had
there's like 1 million people there. Is there not? Or?
I don't know what the population of Rafa is. We'll just look that up real quick. Population of Rafa. About 150,000 people according to 2014 statistics, but we'll see. It's out.
I think the refugees had to go. They were pouring into Rafa, if I recall.
And then they were told very promptly to leave. So, I mean, something has already started with mechanized infantry and armor. So, I mean, I'm not surprised. This also came right on top from the morning's news saying that some sort of ceasefire deal was accepted by Hamas. It was a unilateral proposal from the Egyptians, which I'm surprised since this whole thing has started since October 7th that Egypt has been particularly silent, especially as this Red Sea stuff has really kicked off, in part because they've spent billions of dollars over the last 10 years or so trying to increase Red Sea and of course Nile River Delta access for trade and whatnot. Like everything there for the Suez Canal, right? Everything that's and of course they haven't been as vocal as I'd expected to when I first talked about it. I don't know how long has it been? It's almost 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll see, right? But obviously the conflict is going to continue. I know that Biden said that he was going to cease, I believe, some arms shipments earlier today. And then, of course, there's been the whole debacle over, what constitutes the speech laws here in the United States. Certain representatives of certain persuasions, like Elise Stefanik, calling protesters in college campuses terrorists. Little ordeal of civility stuff going on there real quick. But, I'm not really surprised.
Did you see Justin Trudeau?
I did.
Talking about Zionism. That was funny.
Yeah, you kind of have to at that point. I mean, when you're the first post-national state, remember, there's only one type of nationalism that you can be for at that rate.
No, but it's funny because he's in I think out of all, I mean, listen, I'm just saying this because I'm a Leaf, right? I have to.
Yeah.
Because, in other words, we're kind of insignificant. But he's kind of like the Western leader who's most in precarity right now. Because, you'd figure he's left coded to the extent that he supports the college kids in McGill and elsewhere that have been protesting, Western University, U of T. But he has to come out and say it for the memorial to that event in the mid 20th century. So, he's in he's in a hell of a position. But the problem is the conservatives are going to swoop in.
But he was already in a hell of a position, though. I mean, the last election he doesn't have what is it, like a mixed parliament, or he doesn't have like a majority mandate how he's ruling. He's got a coalition government up there. Is that right?
Yeah, but the NDP, they're going to go with him in lockstep anyways. But
yeah, well, that's like Angus King calling himself an independent, but he caucuses with the Democrats.
It was like when Jill Stein called herself an independent. It's like, yeah. Was Jill Stein independent, right? She was.
No, Jill Stein ran as the Green Party candidate, and right now, Martin on Twitter is Jill Stein's strongest soldier.
She was all right for her age. But anyways, no,
it's just that subtle fellas, whether you said it or not.
Jill Stein fellas.
I guess
no one can topple Tulsi. I mean, Tulsi. I don't know about Tulsi Gabbard. She's not in the looks. I mean, politically, Tulsi Gabbard's kind of like, I don't know. She's weird.
Certainly looks better younger.
Yeah.
Give her credit for that. But yeah, she's the Green Party candidate. If I'm.
So Trudeau is basically ruling as a majority government by fiat because of the participation of Jagmeet Singh, and I think like it is a precarious position that a lot of like Western libtard leaders are in. Did we really talk about the campus protests last episode or no?
How long
No,
we haven't talked about any of that because this has all happened in the last week and a half. So it's been 2 weeks since we've done a show, and no, we did talk a little bit about some of the protesting last time that we were here, but. Again, like the media ecosystem for it, between like traditional like mainstream news, of course, this is all focused on what gets called campus anti-Semitism, right? And then all of a sudden,
well, even Trudeau said he's like, those people, they're afraid now. But it's like, what does he mean by that? Because in Trudeau's head, does he mean like right wingers are threatening them?
Well, that's always the implication is to say yes, that, because the idea of like calling out your non-white, political coalition partners for a position that they've held probably for quite some time. I mean, like at least in America, the history between African Americans and just like American blacks and American Jews is a very fraught, tense, and ugly history. I mean,
the pro-Palestine thing was back to the 70s.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, you also had the Andrew Young affair, right? And then plus, once the civil rights movement kind of effectively ends towards like the late 60s as we know it, with respects to a lot of campus protests, not to mention some teachers union things as well. And again, I just would tell people to read Murray Friedman's 1995 book, What Went Wrong? The Creation and the Collapse of the Black-Jewish Alliance, if you want to see how that relationship looks, at least in the United States. Now, as America's population has gotten way more diverse in college campuses, it's been these extended, pay-as-you-go arrested
a lot of
development
foreign students as well.
Well, arrested development centers, foreign students, a lot of international students, especially from like India, China, in the United States, and the Koreas. And then on top of that, right, like you do have a lot of that sort of like progressive, race-coded American politics of progressivism, where of course, like, yeah, like you'll see campus interviews, which has sort of made the whole dialectic on Twitter all the more. I feel like I'm losing IQ points sometimes when I go through it. But like they're like, well, actually, we're really here to stop like the evil white supremacist United States funding of a genocide in Gaza or whatever. That was something I had saw from one of the campus protesters in Colombia. And so like it kind of does get redirected back to the United States. It's not so much there. And then our friend Trevor Sutcliffe was just basically listening to some, young white female progressive TikToker saying like, well, we should really be concerned about how much money like, this particular country in the Middle East has over the United States, but it's framing it in a way about how it's leading to millions of people who are not white being killed. And of course, right, everything gets recontextualized, at least in some progressive brain, that it has to be viewed through that sort of power dynamic lens, regardless of the fact. And again, I thought Stephen Carson, Radical Liberation, had like the most sane take on Twitter, where he's just like, I don't have to support that country. I don't have to endorse genocide. And I don't want to get dragged into some sort of fucking boondoggle like we did in 2003. And I feel like that's because, again, like the American raised the flag patriotism, which I think the knee-jerk reaction of those frat boys was a a healthy instinct. Don't let your own flag touch the ground. Like, you're surrounded by a bunch of ugly, dysgenic communists and foreign students. The least you can do is stand up for yourself. It doesn't help that one of the students gets picked on Fox News, who obviously I think was Jewish, to talk about whatever.
Well, he had the bands, what are they called? I haven't, I forget. I'm failing my religious ways, but yeah.
I don't know. But I mean, like, still, like, it's an ugly, messy issue where so many lines have intersected. It's just like,
well, like I said this, I said this on Twitter. Like, my fear is that their patriotism will get reappropriated by the Fox News, by the pro-Israel types, to be like, okay, like, to be pro-America is also to be pro-Israel. You know,
and they're
yeah.
You can watch that happen in real time. Like, you know, it gets cranked back up to simply say, oh, well, really. Yeah, they're anti-America because they're anti-us, and you've got to support us. And it's always been this way, really, since the neoconservatives managed to just go through any sort of
since the first bomb dropped in Tora Bora in 2001.
Well, I mean, way earlier
before,
than that,
way before the 60s. Yeah.
Because I mean, as soon as you really see sort of the emergence of neoconservatism, and of course there are WASPs and Catholics that sign on to this sort of new program against any sort of paleo-conservative or old right, whatever was left of it, especially because so many of them had just flat out died due to just age. The thing to consider, though, right, is that every time that these kind of coalitions happen, either by power or by convenience or by money, it's always the majority, usually that means white Republican voting Americans, that always get sort of like the shit into the stick when it comes to this, because we have to cater to now a minority need. And that's sort of going to be the consequence of any sort of multiracial, democratic pluralism. Is that, well, we all have to cater to one another, and it doesn't matter if you're the plurality or the majority. Like, if you want to keep this coalition together, we're going to do it. And the left is seeing that too. And how much of this is like actual true leftist infighting? I mean, I think it's the smart thing, of course, is to not intervene in it. Like, let these morons fight. Like, obviously the Arrested Development Education Centers, these glorified day camps, where they're literally only being really kept afloat financially by foreign students and out-of-state, students.
Well, especially here in Canada, yeah.
I mean, even in American Ivy Leagues, it's that way. Yeah, and I mean, plus if you take a look at outside of sporting scholarships or legacy, higher, or not legacy hires, but like legacy admissions, there are barely any white kids that go to these institutions. And so the few that are there, and yes, I get it, there are Jewish fraternities, etc. But I think it's sort of an important thing to consider that, like, these are a bunch of, my enemy is also fighting like institutions that, support, indoctrinate, and fund all the things that also hate me. It's good to let them fight. I don't feel the need to get too involved in this shit show. I think as it gets closer and closer to the election, and if this conflict continues, which I certainly think it will for the next foreseeable, for at least the rest of the year, I think that it'll be good to watch these people, fight and see what happens, because they're kind of beginning to clamp down on it. Like, Mayor Daley of Chicago, the 1968 Democratic Convention, you saw that raid from the NYPD, which of course it did not help. I think that the person who helped instigate that raid has had some training in a certain particular country in the Middle East.
Well, they were like pulling their hair and they were like macing them.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, they're doing the whole, 1968 Democratic National Convention thing. Like, we're pulling out, beaten, protesters and rioters, like, they just no holds bar, reestablish order to where the status quo stays as it is. And on top of that, like, I think that, it's a good time to watch, like, everyone sort of look at this and be like, well, what a fucking shit show. Like, what a joke. But again, like, you're correct. And I think a lot of other people on Twitter have also accurately observed that the instincts of these young men will be used by legacy media to instigate that, to be pro-America is to be pro-Israel or something like that. Even though, we already witnessed this, like, it's that kid who was making allegedly racial noises.
I was going to mention that,
at a fat black communist lady who I think she's actually staff, and she had flipped them off. Like, he got doxxed. He was suspended from the fraternity.
He's fucked,
he was, I believe, kicked out of the university, if I read that correctly earlier today. And so, oh man, you crossed the line, and I don't blame the kid, but at the same time, like, you should also know that you're a white male at a college campus that politically hates you and wants you dead. and again, not everyone I think has that consciousness, although I think they certainly should at this point, especially if you're a Zoomer. Like if you like lived through COVID and you lived through like as a younger kid, like you didn't graduate college or you didn't graduate high school, you were blocked out and or forced to be remote, and then you saw all the Summer of Floyd stuff. I feel like a lot of just like any white Zoomer these days, like you really do have like there's a really firm dichotomy there. Like either you are somewhat of a conservative minded, or at least you're kind of like racially conscious, or B, like you've turned into like the full on libtard thing.
You've become thought slime.
But yeah, become thought slime, right? But also I think that because they've grown up in a much more multiracial society, their position on immigration, and there's polling data from the Pew Research Center to back that up, they're not as hardcore as say millennials, Gen X, or boomers. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out politically. But I think that all with that being said, it's going to continue to be a weird intersectional shit show, and they're always going to try and redirect it, just as we saw with the Asian, violence, or like
Stop
the
Asian hate.
Well, yeah, they'd be like Stop Asian, or Asian Pacific Islander hate or whatever, and then the NYPD would post like video after video after video of like a black guy beating the crap out of some Asian person off the
yeah, it wasn't Danny from The Believer beating up an Asian.
Yeah, like right, like it's not someone that looks like us, but like again, the media.
That's someone that looks like Tim Pool with a shaved head.
Yeah, right. Like it's not like skinhead Tim Pool is just like going out of his way to beat up Asian people. Plus he's half Korean, which makes that even more funny. That's a real Believer situation right there.
Wait, what?
Isn't he like Korean?
Is
like
he
half Korean?
I think you're thinking of Andy No.
No. Andy No looks like what he is, but no, because Tim Pool has some Asiatic background in him.
No way. That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Pretty sure he talks about this, but he talks about all sorts of shit.
He looks like a white guy.
I don't think he looks white.
He does look like a weird white guy though. Yeah.
Hold on.
I didn't know Tim Pool is a Hapa. That's great.
Pretty sure he is. Yeah, Korean American podcaster. There you go.
Whoa! Could even put in this wiki. Korean American.
The simple English Wikipedia. Oh, there's a simple English Wikipedia nowadays. That's terrifying. It's like the whole like pigeon type of English Wikipedia. It's only a matter of time before we get that here in America. But sort of just to wrap it all up, though, I mean, like they're going to always try when any sort of coalition fighting happens, they're always going to try and redirect it back to blaming white. Right. Yeah, they're always going to blame Whitey. They're always going to blame their alleged fascist boogeymen, even though those guys were dressing up in what looked like basically that shirt was cash t-shirts from 2014, and we're just being like, yeah, you guys suck. And unfortunately, they're going to be the target time now. They're going to be on the eyes where just some blue-haired protesters are like, frat boys could be here as the $12 wine cooler coursed through her obese veins.
No, but that's the big problem though. Like what I was going to say is that you really if you're in the political right, you kind of are being assaulted on both sides. Like, I mean, a lot of people who are more on the one side of the E-right, who are against the frat boys, because I think they're correct to the extent that they will be co-opted, and at the end of the day, they will be punished. Like that one frat boy that made the monkey face. It's no doubt that the left is going to punish him. But at the same time, you also have, for example, today was Alan Dershowitz saying that that any university that has these protests should have their funding stripped and should be shut down by the government because, well, we know about his past with Jeffrey Epstein, right? Allegedly. But so one side hates you. The other side wants to co-opt you and also hates you because they want to silence free speech in America. So you kind of can't win either way, right? Now, I know that you can manipulate any image to be whatever narrative. I know that, for example, they're pointing out the Israeli flag behind that, the photo of them raising the American flag. But you could also see like Palestinian flags in the background as well. But then you do have like Fox News interviewing the rabbi kid who was with the campus frat boys. And so there is a danger of normie conservatism TM making that equation, as they always have when it comes to making these patriotic gestures. So these frat boys are going to suffer some serious consequences, obviously, for what they've done. And I think that, but at the same time, it's like, the left obviously is persecuting them. And when it comes to the right, the the pro-Israeli right, they want to, of course, shut down all free speech because it's anti-Semitic or whatever. So it's like they really can't win in this situation. Yeah, that's we're along. Someone said tree surgeon frat boys usually default to Bernie Bros impressed. That maybe, but I think that the Zoomers are quite different. Even the leftist Zoomers, like I saw my one friend was showing me these TikTok videos where like this like lefty Zoomer guy is talking about the politics behind the campus protests. It's like, man, like this is like this is like alt-right talking points from 2015, but it's like from a leftist perspective, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
it's
the serious consequences with regards to the frat stuff. I mean, the guy who we just
oh,
mentioned,
he got doxxed. He's kicked out.
doxxed,
Yeah, he'll never have a job again.
suspended from the fraternity, and I think he was kicked out of school.
Yeah,
I mean, there has been some stuff against like the lefty protesters, like, oh, you're not going to graduate this year. These people will most likely be okay to some extent. I don't think that the hammer is going to swing as hard to the left.
They probably won't be able to get government jobs or anything like that. Or
Oh no, but I mean, it's not like they won't
Yeah.
get a job as a professional activist or something. Like, I
Yeah,
mean,
true.
and plus one of the people that was that got listed on the said that, oh, I'm studying like poetry or whatever for her PhD or whatever, and it's just that kind of stuff with that respect.
It does look bad that there are there's a lot of very like glow in the dark activity where they're macing them and they're dragging them down, and there's rumors of provocateurs. And I know like a lot of these campus protests are ridiculous, right? They're saying that like the one in UCLA, but at the same time, I mean, I think like the old politics of the universities implicitly endorsing protesting, that's kind of not the case anymore. And it does. I think that people have to really get outside of their comfort zone and get outside of the particular groups that they've aligned themselves with or particular cults of personality. And I think you have to really view these things objectively, especially from a rightist or an e-right, online right position. I think like a lot of people are talking past each other. And this is one of the rare cases where the regime or the elites, whatever you want to call it, I know that term gets bandied about, is not in line with the most energetic portion of the left in general, which is the young activist core. And so
I mean, the young activist core is the foot soldier.
Yes.
They aren't the ones. I mean, these are the ones that are client classes. They're not the patrons. I mean, they have the potential to be in the future.
In the future,
very
they
good.
could be. Yeah.
Well, in the future, they'll be HR managers, project managers. They'll be activists, academics.
Well, look at the millennials that went talking about Wall Street. A lot of them are in positions of power now. They're journalists or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them are A lot of them are they have achieved a level of sinecure, right? Like, oh, I make like $65K a year being like a lefty journo, where I get to talk about like the evil fascist boogeyman that's right around the corner, because that's often like that's the specter that haunts the West. Is not a specter of Marxism or communism, it's a specter of fascism. And that's sort of like the constant perennial fear of like the modern sort of progressive world order is that that's why the definition for that term has been so radically warped to a point where that can mean anything that's not progressive. And I mean, like, there's that great old, frog wave tweet. Like, well, what's the exact opposite of like your child castrating progressive politics? It's like a fascist. It's like, thank you very much. And like that's and it's true, because anytime that you say, like, they'll just say, oh, it's fascism, and it's just like, okay, great. Like that's sort of the founding sort of like political mythos that we have here, that like everything must be against that sort of particular ideology. These kind of people, these ghosts, very much there's a hauntology there. And in doing so, like everything has to be sort of correlated to this. So we have to prevent. And again, it punishes like the white frat boys. Throughout my time in college, I saw numerous fraternities either get canceled or like just stop doing them altogether. Like not like my college had a big active Greek life, but the whole hazing thing. This was also during like the dear colleague letter under Obama. So like colleges, at least for like male spaces and male only spaces, this all goes back to the perennial feminization of just like, masculine life in America and really everywhere that we've seen the whole longhouse discourse. So everything like has come together to focus on these young people protesting in the left-wing way that people will see it about Israel and about what's going on in Palestine and about what's going on in Gaza. And it's made for some really weird, strange bedfellows. But I think also in the backdrop of all this, let's not forget, since October 7th started, like what has been going on? Well, like, the whole concept of being mugged by reality, right? The whole neocon line. Like, so what is it? I mean, like Bill Ackman, right? Like the wealthy guy, and of course the Manhattan Institute. And so all these people that are like, whoa, 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 you can't go after us. And so, well, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to get like Claudine Gay resigning from being the president. We're going to go after all these other black women for plagiarizing, which I'm waiting for the definition of plagiarism to be like, plagiarism is just, plagiarism is actually just plagiarism plus power. It's only bad if white people plagiarize. And so again, you sort of seen this reemergence of like anti-woke neoconservatism. And I mean, yeah, Bill Ackman did some tweets about how like, oh, wow, like what I'm seeing here is like a Jewish guy has been happening to white people for forever. And it's like, he's also sounding like he's talking about like old, alt-right talking points from like 10 years ago. But it's like, well, if you're using those talking points, either you're losing or so there's going to be a really weird realignment happening with a certain class of these individuals that, well, I think you'll see a more re-emphasized, well, to be anti-woke means that we have to protect these people, but we're never ever going to get to the crux of the issue, which has been like these decade-long policies that have particularly, tarnished, just basically like whites in America and really just them. And you guys sometimes get intersected with that because of how the progressive intersectional nature works. But again, like you're kind of alone in this situation. It's going to be very hard to find allies, if any, unless you're willing to make either concessions or B, just kind of play along with where the money flows, which often tends to happen in politics anyway. You work with what you've got. So it's going to be ugly. I don't know how it will resolve. It's going to be entirely dependent upon how things are resolved in the war. I mean, that's more or less it. It's entirely dependent on how the USG coordinates with Israel about this conflict. And I think Israel kind of wants to just, flatten what they need and do what they have to do. But again, the longer this gets drawn out, the weirder and more ugly America's domestic politics gets, because as America gets increasingly less white, the schizophrenic nature of race politics in America is only going to escalate to a degree that you're seeing on your timeline, on the news, and on the phones. It's going to be that way for a considerable length of time, to where even, those neo-lib idiots like that Drew guy that Joel Davis debated a while back.
No, God. Oh, that guy.
I mean, okay, but when he was tweeting out a few weeks ago, like, oh, well, like, we need to seriously understand the geopolitical situation because it affects our domestic politics at home. Maybe they shouldn't be here, like totally up in the like, why does it that, some foreign conflict halfway around the world has to affect my, like whether or not someone's going to get like mugged or mogged on the street? Well, obviously the answer is just like funny how the solutions to almost all of these problems start with like, no immigration, do some deportation and remigration. Every time.
But didn't that guy go like he went schizo over the Chinese hate him or something? I forget his backstory. I watched that debate. I think he got in trouble for criticizing the Chinese government or something like that. I don't know. Who cares?
But he's in Australia. Well, he's not really an Australian, but I mean, he lives in Australia, doesn't he?
Yeah. So. Yeah. I think Lev wanted him on, or we had him on one. I forget. This is a long time ago. And apparently a bunch of in Canada, the fraternity thing isn't that big, but like America, it's a huge deal. The fraternities, right?
Yeah. I mean, the Greek life, it was sort of a place where men would make lifelong networks and connections. Like people would get jobs and make friends and just connect with people based on like, oh, I'm part of, X Greek, X fraternity. And they'd be like, oh, cool. Like I can, I know you, we have a similar experience and ethic. So we should be able to get along. I mean, people have made connections that way for jobs. It was sort of an old pipeline for like, well-to-do white guys to find jobs and connections and networks. And of course that's all gone.
Were you part of a frat?
No, because most of the fraternities on my college campus were either suspended for X number of years due to hazing allegations, or they just weren't available where I lived. So
Well,
there
not
were
to
more
counter
sororities
signal.
on my campus than there were fraternities. And so again, the implications of just the absolute destruction of like male spaces and life on college campus is just gone. Like I didn't my school was like a commuter school, so like I didn't live on campus. It wouldn't be towards my last 2 years of college that I got out of my folks' place and had my own apartment because I was working full time. So I don't know what, growing up or living near or on campus is like. My brothers did that. I didn't. I don't know what that's like at all.
Well, not to counter signal, but I know like in recent years it was used as a pretext to destroy fraternities in general. But from what I know, like there were some very serious hazing stuff that did go on that got out of hand. And I don't know, I just don't think that hazing should be like they're bordering on even like actual assault, you know what I mean? So I don't agree with that. But like I mean, when it comes, there should be a bit of hazing, just not like some of the stuff they were doing was pretty bad.
I'm sure that it was, but I also know, as someone who had to deal with the extrajudicial student grievance policies on my college campus, like unless you know what you're doing, bring a lawyer with you. Like it's very easy for just an accusation to be like, oh shit, like I could get screwed for life, or I could get kicked out of college, so I better just like play along, and you don't stand up for yourself. Like I was working for lawyers, so I was just like, hey boss, like can you do me a huge solid? And like, can you come with me to this like grievance hearing? It's absolute bullshit. And she was like, yeah, cool, I'll go with you. And so like we took lunch and I went to that thing, and that thing was resolved instantly because I lawyered up. And again, if you don't have access to that, you're screwed, right? And I mean, the law is already hard enough to deal with here. When it comes to men in general. I mean, like, let's not kid ourselves, especially if you're like politically active or engaged. Like, I do hope that those frat guys, at least the mainstream or like the new founding style right wing, can hire those guys and use them for something. I pray that that's the case, especially for the one that has gotten all the shit that he's gone through, because no kid deserves that. And it's like Nick Sandman all over again. And I mean, like, what is that kid doing now? I hope he's working for like a law firm, or he's like at law school now that he's graduated high school. Because like I know he did he spoke in 2020 about supporting Trump, but it's such a shame that like that's the cynic that you get, is that you're just like a right wing like
Carl Rittenhouse gets his Fox News, whatever.
Like that just sucks. Like you have to be that's your gig in life. Like no, I hope you get hired rather than you got to be like a spokesperson for like a gun manufacturer or something, which I mean is cool, but
become the spokesperson for Black Rifle Coffee.
Did he do that? Is that real?
No, I don't think. Maybe it could be like
that can't be the case, because Black Rifle Coffee Company like totally shat on Kyle Rittenhouse. I doubt.
You're right, but it's a bad example. But some other like extreme,
conservative like coded or marketed, which is
like,
always the
Patriot snake bite.
Everyone's got a fucking coffee company or some coffee,
or like some
sell.
magazine, like some bolt carrier company or something.
Like I've noticed that, like the Pool. I think Tim Pool had it. I think Adam Kriegler has it on his own show. Like a lot of these mainstream pundit places, like they're all either centrists or like con Inc. or anti-woke. They all sell coffee. Like
Dick Masterson tried to sell coffee.
Different product.
Yeah,
that's all I'm asking for.
That'd be cool though.
If you sold me some stationery, or if you sold me like something that I would definitely use more often than coffee, because I'm already a snob about that. This is me being an asshole.
Yeah, Trump had steaks,
I'll take Trump steaks. I bet you they're awful, but I'll take steaks. Like if you were to say, hey,
you're like remember
I'm a gun tuber that makes like millions of dollars a year. I'm investing in real estate. Oh man, well, real estate actually makes money, or is a way to have like control over the land. Now that would be interesting. Like you got to have a little more entrepreneurship in there, rather than just like, I'm going to sell you very shitty beans. I don't like the day I start selling you coffee is the day that you should unsubscribe, because I have just sold out and I've lost any sort of like long-term thought process for the future.
I don't know if Zoomers remember this, but like there was a bunch of stuff that like was coded as like upper middle class, or like what poor people thought rich people did in like the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. And one of them was like getting your steak ordered in the mail, like ordering steaks by mail. You remember that? I think that was Trump steaks as well. You'd like ordered them by mail. That was like a big thing. Does anyone remember that? Do you remember the steaks ordered by mail?
Do we have an old enough
yeah.
Is our audience old enough to remember ordering steaks by mail?
Probably. Yeah, this was before like Freshco or whatever, those, meal kits.
Oh, what are those? Like, what are those?
Yeah, Grey Poupon was one of them. What else? Quiche, eating quiche was coded as like
Grey Poupon.
like a poor person say, yeah, Omaha Steaks. Thank you, Nullis. Nullis is old enough to remember this. Yeah, Omaha Steaks.
Oh yeah. Well, people can still do that. They just sell it now with the meal kit stuff. Like you've got like the Chop where they'll like send it's a quality meat and seafood monthly subscription, but $99 a month. That seems
oh, you should pay $99 a month for anything. Yeah.
Well, isn't that terrifying that everything has just become just a blank as service or subscription as service, type deal? Like
they have pizza subscriptions now.
Pizza subscriptions. I mean, they got stuff for dog foods and like chew toys and all that stuff. And again, as America becomes like all this more and more sterile, where we're so averse to having children, or we come up with reasons not to have them. Some are legitimate, others not so much, and we've just totally valued like, oh, I'm a fur. This is my fur baby. And I know this is such a normie to your talking point, but it really does iterate the point that if you begin to value these things, people are going to find a way to make money off of it. And if you're telling me that you value your dog like a child, this thing that's only going to be around for like 7 to 14 years, all of a sudden, like there's going to be, think of like 14 years at $80 a month, all the stuff you can get for your dog, your
there's like
baby,
loot crates,
your little dog stroller, your loot crate. Maybe maybe on June it'll be like, it'll be a purple crate. You're like, oh, sweet, extra rare dog toy or whatever for it, because you're
the dog toy and the dogs like this.
You're raised on like the Diablo clone style of like loot drops with World of Warcraft themes in it. And you're like, yes, finally. And we have all these like, honest to God, like the soylenial culture of like, oh, here's my D&D or here's my like Star Wars themed cookbook. I look forward to its death. I really do. I look forward to its destruction. It needs to go. I'm so tired of these like madmen and philosophy and like here's a paragraph about like Peggy and Heidegger and I'm like, please kill me. Just end my life. Just stop.
Better Call Saul and legal theory.
Better Call Saul. My cousin Vinny's a fucking gem. I will defend that movie.
That is a gem, yeah.
Because that movie is actually a really accurate representation.
Who is in it? Marissa Tomei or who was it?
I think that was her.
Yeah, it was Marissa Tomei.
I'm pretty sure it was
pretty
my
good.
cousin. 1992. That was Marissa Tomei. Yeah, she did look good back then. So yeah, I mean that's a great movie, but Better Call Saul and Pro Se with Saul Goodman, and it's like, oh, so you just got a ticket, and like they'll have a little AI voice of Bob Odenkirk telling you how to defend yourself in like a JP court over a speeding ticket or whatever. I don't know, maybe that would actually help people, but
mail crates. Maybe you'll sell like Nick Rekieta. You'll sell the Baldo. Does anyone know the Baldo lore?
No, I don't. I don't.
You don't want to know. You don't want to know.
I guess I really don't want to know. Thank you.
That's too much. No, but people are. You know what that reminds me of? Those boxes of food, like fresh, like what's it called? Someone said in the chat. Not Freshco. Fresh Ink. Fresh whatever.
Fresh food delivery. I'm gonna just look it up real quick. HelloFresh. Which every like big movie? YouTuber sells all the time. Yeah.
Do you remember that movie was it about aliens or demons where they're in like the liminal spaces town, the couple, and they're given this child to take care of, and every house looks
I know exactly. Isn't that the one with Anna Kendrick, right?
Yes, but what's his name? He's always in those, like he was in like College Inc. or whatever, what that film was called, like Safa Rekieta, Safa.
No, I'm looking it up now.
You know that film, but I think it was either demons or aliens that they were taking care of. It was like this
something like that.
What's his name? He was in all those like movies.
Wasn't he also the guy in Parks and Rec?
Yes. I think
Okay, I'm just gonna
so.
look up that cast for
No,
him.
not Fire in the Sky. No.
Adam Scott. He was in some recent movie about this, right? About this issue.
Yes.
Movies and shows. Let's take a look here. See if I can find it. If not, I'm not gonna be bothered.
But it was
I
a
don't
great
recall.
movie, though. It had the whole like liminal spaces, like it was like
Little Evil, right?
Little Evil. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
No, that was with Evangeline Lilly, but still.
Yeah. Well, great film though. Great film.
Yeah,
did you see DSP
supernatural comedy.
that was the best. Where DSP was like, first of all, if I'm gonna get a lawyer, I'm gonna get a lawyer, not a YouTuber. He like totally felt Nick Rekieta. That was funny. Here's the thing.
Does he actually practice law though? Like, I get that he's like he went to law school.
I think he did a few cases here and there, but I think he lost.
Because I feel like that has to suck. That like, oh, you're the YouTube attorney. Like, you're not real. Like, you're
He's
not
not doing.
You'll never be a real
I
lawyer. You're always just a legal commentator.
Yeah. I shouldn't pick on him. He's not doing too well. He doesn't look like he's doing too well. But DSP, you know that the iron law about Bashir al-Assad, where if you criticize him, that's like, you know, if you criticize Darkside Phil, it's you know why? Because Darkside Phil will literally still be streaming when the sun explodes. When the sun goes supernova, there will still be DSP struggling to get through, I don't know, what's the video games he loves to play that he hates?
I don't know. I couldn't
Guys,
tell you.
what video games does DSP struggle with that he hates playing, but he still plays them because it's funny when he rage quits? But no, DSP will always be around. I sincerely wish you consider counter-signaling Darkside Phil. Yeah, Darkside Phil. I've only watched like a few videos where
all of them.
All of them.
Souls games, Metal Gear Solid. There you go.
Metal Gear Solid. That's the one where he like took him like an hour to get through that one element of yeah, that was funny. So yeah, never counter signal DSP because he will win in the end. He just has to stay there and does what he does. And he will win. So, you know, it's not going to be fun for Nick Rekieta. He played Zelda. DSP played Zelda? That's really weird. That's
more obscure internet personality lore that I could have lived without.
I pledge my loyalty.
I feel so. It's like I never left. You know,
you were a gamer. You don't remember like Angry Video Game Nerd or?
I didn't watch any of that crap.
Like, I didn't either, but I thought you would because you're a gamer. So
yeah, but I didn't watch other people. Like I have like one like little group of people that I like watching their stuff, but none of the Angry Video Game Nerd, none of the
Channel Awesome people,
and none of the Angry Joe reviews. Like the few people whose like stuff I will listen to review. Like I liked a lot of Razor Fist stuff talking about video games. But outside of that, he also did great political rants. I don't really listen to him nowadays, but I think it's in part because I consume less and I try to produce more.
You know what the funny thing is though, is that all like the just useless idiots from early YouTube, all the absolutely terrible, useless grifters that just the only reason they're popular is because they were there first. Like Boogie, like Review Tech USA, like all of them they're dying. It's over for them. But for some reason, even though
Memento Mori, right? You know,
Memento Mori,
you're just brutally reminded all of a sudden that you're just like, oh, you know,
yeah.
You finally finished. You know, you turn off the live stream. You just tell everyone to you know like, click, and subscribe and comment for that algo boost, and then all of a sudden you realize you're gray.
It's
old.
over.
It's not 2007 anymore. It's 2024. And the wrinkles on your forehead begin to set in as the Norwood 3 is a little more noticeable now, as the algorithm has been turned against you for quite some time. And you think maybe just one more live stream, one more new hit review, one new gimmick. And then all of a sudden, you realize it's over.
Yeah.
You're old now. You're just a few 100 pounds off from being that other bookie character. Maybe you can get a documentary. And you look back and you realize as you look up your name on YouTube, all of a sudden people are making documentaries about you and what went wrong. Where are you now? I don't know. Like one day this will happen.
But the only guy who has
Memento Mori.
the only guy who has kind of very little talent, and he's not particularly good at video games, but for some reason he managed to survive, is Darkside Phil. He's the only one that withered the storm. I forget Jim's new name as after transitioning, but Sterling gone. Boogie,
Janine, I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. Boogie destroyed. Review Tech USA, total lol cow. PewDiePie went to have a family, has a good life.
I was about to say, he moved to Japan. He got married to a nice, beautiful woman, has children. I don't know. And he still does videos every now and then. He's fine.
He wants for nothing.
He's the only success story out of all these people that I will happily list.
Even Wings of Redemption has a wife and stepkids, and he does that lolcow podcast that Keemstar runs, and the guy who comes out most well out of all of them is Wings of Redemption, because he just goes there and he felts Boogie every single episode. Oh, it's so funny. But all the legends eventually will have to fall, because there are new people with better production value, who have better, who has an ability to get the synapse destroyed zoomer audience. They have a better ability to capture.
The other thing, though, to consider too, right, is that there are now consulting firms, there are now marketing people, there are talent agencies that are explicitly catered and designed for this kind of deal. And it's just this is what you wanted, right? Or it's the same thing with the TikTok creator houses and hubs, and you're just this is what you wanted, right? You want to be a star, don't you? You want to be this, and it's like the old nasty, sleazy Hollywood producer who's zipping down his pants, and he's just you want to go viral, don't you? You want to be a star, don't you?
Harvey Weinstein presenting his thing to make Juggernuggets.
Could you imagine just the YouTubers, they're evolving. They have their own marketing firms, and it's just
my God. Woo. The equivalent of Harvey Weinstein for YouTube, just going to who would be a good example? Going to Dream, or being well, you want to make that Minecraft money, right? King Cobra still survived, but King Cobra is kind of on the skids a little bit,
Harvey Weinstein finding some schizophrenic 15-year-old doing Minecraft videos. It's just you want to see a little creeper, don't you? And it's just
who's that one kid that harasses people, Jack Doherty, in real life? It's
I have no idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of TikTok people that are being pushed by some very sleazy elements.
I'm not part of, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I don't even know.
One day, everyone will have an anime girl avatar. I know some people that are doing the whole VTuber stuff. I wish them the best of luck with it. I don't know how I feel about that. That's a whole extra layer of hyper reality on top of what you're doing.
Whatever happened to Jason Genova? Is Jason Genova still around? No, King Cobra, he had a woman that flew out to see him who was this crazy woman, but then she made him mad, and then she flew back and started self-destructing immediately. It was not good, man. I feel bad for King Cobra. I mean, he's been through a lot. Yeah, man. But anyways, let's stop talking about YouTube.
Yeah, if you want to, let's not engage in a nostalgia that I'm not nostalgic for.
Oh my God.
Because I have nothing. I've never watched any of this shit.
Onision.
The guy who wrote a whole bunch of novels that are awful. That book YouTubers are I read these books, so you don't have to. And it's thanks for the easy clicks.
Who? Chuck Wendig?
No. The actual, Onision wrote some shitty novels or whatever, and
that's right.
YouTubers were just hey, I reviewed
Literotica
this whole cow. Yeah, basically, right. Here, I reviewed this lol cow stuff,
Wasn't it Chuck Wendig, the soy jack? He wrote these books, and that's why he was suing archive.org or something. It was
something like that. But also, Chuck Wendig is just a really
terrible person.
Kind of just a shitty writer.
Yeah.
Him some Star Wars books after Disney did the whole revamp the canon or whatever, and they're all right, Chuck, you're up. And it's just what is this? Because it makes no sense with regards to continuity. But hey, that's life in the world of writing and whatnot. But speaking of good writing or happy, if you want to have a really good time with it, our good writing can be like Norm Macdonald. And our friend Dimes and T.R. Hudson reviewed his fake memoir not too long ago. You can enjoy that. So I would recommend that. I'm always going to tell you, go read, listen to your friends, watch your friends, read your friends, support their publications.
Oh,
yeah. Charlemagne says, Chuck Wendig's trash Aftermath book turned me off from Star Wars. Oh yeah, it's awful. It's a piece of shit book.
Doesn't Star Wars have a non-binary character now in the new whatever?
I'm pretty sure. I'm in it. Like, as someone who grew up with the prequels, loved them to death, loved a lot of the Star Wars, like what's now called Legends canon. I could not care less. I could not. Yeah. I'm so done. And so it's let it die. I mean, I'm okay with that dying. I have the things that I like, that I can hold on to, that I can enjoy and know their proper place as things that I liked as a kid growing up. But it's gone now. And it's like in the same way that like I have like a $2,500 gaming PC that I use all my stuff to work with and write from and do this stuff. But also I'm playing like 20-year-old plus video games. Like, yeah, I'm still playing Empire at War. I'm still playing Sins of the Solar Empire. I'm still playing Halo Combat Evolved, which came out like 23 years ago.
That came a long time. I was going to say, yeah.
Not me from having a good time. So I mean, that's sort of the way it goes.
Like the atheist guy, Dusty. I remember whatever happened to Dusty. Like he had that video where he's like, we used to talk about, religious people. Now we just talk about SJWs. It's like that guy's done.
Talk about religious people. Now we talk about trannies.
I think what's that guy's name that used to date Shoe on Head? What was his name?
Armored Skeptic.
I think he's homeless now. Armored Skeptic. He was on the border of being homeless. So yeah, he's done.
Oh, Dusty turned into a shitlib. Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, they all did though. Amazing Atheist, all of them.
They all did. Like really, there's two paths.
What atheist YouTuber besides Sargon became?
Well, I mean, he's still technically an atheist, but
Right. Well, I don't know. Is Sargon still an atheist?
Yes.
I thought he was struggling with his atheism, though.
I mean, he had said it himself in a recent video about Richard Dawkins in The Last Church. He's like, I'm still an atheist, but still. Yes, he is the most financially successful lolcow. That's true.
Jesty's the most victorious lolcow. Well, that was...
is he? Is he now?
Is he?
Is he?
He was on a street. He was on a particular Twitter space last night, but...
yes, he is a pro-Christian atheist, which is better than a lot of the other new atheists.
Yeah,
I do agree with that.
Do you remember Thunderfoot?
Okay, this is turning into the online politics,
remember
nostalgia memberberry stream. It's not what this is what's happening. Apparently, that's what's happening.
Thunderfoot. He claimed he was a scientist, but he was like a glorified test tube cleaner in some like lab.
Oh dear God.
Anyways, let's stop going down memory lane. But or else it's gonna be like the IBS apocalypse stream.
So some other fun news, and this is something to always remind yourself to be prepared, be vigilant, do an area study. According to some open source intel people, domestic terror organization in Portland, Oregon, going by Rachel Corey's Ghost Brigade, released a statement today in which they claimed responsibility for torching 15 vehicles belonging to the Portland Police Department on May 1st, in which they claim was a preemptive attack on the cops, who further they claim were planning to dismantle a pro-Hamas or pro-Palestine encampment at the Portland State University. So, Portland, of course, has got nothing but a shitload of leftist paramilitaries. I mean, there are leftist paramilitaries all over the United States. And they do shit like this, unfortunately, a little more often than what gets reported. But yeah, things to consider.
They still remember Rachel Corey? Man.
Apparently so. That's who they're named after.
Interesting.
Crazy shit to think about.
That's crazy, yeah. No, yeah. But then I know like the police in Portland, they try to do all the outreach stuff. Like they have a lot of Pride Month stuff, but I mean, come on, if you're a police officer in Portland, I mean, you're the most hated person ever.
Well, if you're a cop in Portland, your job is to
look
anything.
The other way. You're a professional. Look the other way.
You're a professional. Cooperate with the anarcho commies, right? That's your job to a large extent.
But I do notice that some leftists are waking up to like how, okay, so you so the cops were kneeling during BLM, but now they're like pulling our hair and macing us. So it's like, a lot of people are having
It's a
yeah.
conflict between who are the holiest people and the progressive American civic religion.
Well, that's what I mean though. Like a lot of, like you were saying about the immigration thing. I know it's a cliched point, but like, a lot of people in these college campuses, they're either too young or they don't care because they have a completely different civilizational context than like the sort of politics of Europe and North America for the last 80 years. And is it it's been 80 years since World War II?
Oh, just about.
Yeah.
If not more than that. Yeah, it's
Oh,
something,
really?
the long arc of history. Yeah, well, I mean, and they have their own version of noticing, because it's just like, oh, well, we're only allowed to be acceptable, useful idiots to this extent versus XYZ.
Yeah.
But I mean, even then, right? Like anyone who's been on the right for any length of period of time, they're like, well, like we already know this, and you're not our friends because you still want to bash us over the head with bike locks. So like, the smart move really is to sort of sit back and watch these two duke it out, because for however long this goes, at some point in time, they are going to collectively turn their weapons back at you. And you should be taking the time, I think, to prepare politically, financially, in every which way that you can with respect to not getting arrested and doing anything stupid. Please do not do anything stupid. It is an election year. The American government is looking for anything to do something to you. Please work within the letter and the confines of the law for the sake of not getting arrested and not getting hurt or targeted, and try your best to be consolidating political power you can. And I've been
don't act stupid.
I've been get a tan.
Get a tan.
I'm looking forward to the summer, though. I actually am looking forward to getting some sun. It's been nothing but cloudy, rainy, and nasty up here, and it's just it's a terrifying, frustrating.
Well, I was going to ask you, Prude, about the election. Like, obviously these protests, if they do continue into the summer, going into the DNC, which ironically enough will be in Chicago. Do you think that if Israel continues its actions into the summer, do you think that, because in terms of the Republican camp, I mean, obviously Trump has a pretty good shot, right? But
the GOP is, well, I mean, like, the party's not with him. I don't feel
the Trumpism. I don't feel like the...
Well, the party isn't with him. They don't like him. The GOP has spent, like, every fiber of their being to, like, even if Trump was... Okay, so just not counting all of the judicial bullshit of trying to arrest a former president of the United States using legal theories and ideas that have never been tried on any other president before. Just throw all of the court cases out for here.
They recently fined him again, or they tried
they did. They fined him again over a gag order, and I think Trump is pushing it. But okay, throw out all. Just let's not count like an economics model over here, real quick. Let's not take the legal stuff into consideration.
Right. Okay. Barring the legal stuff.
Barring the legal things, the GOP as an institution has been an absolute shit show. Ronna McDaniel has resigned, which came after a previous contest of trying to get rid of her, where you're beginning to see sort of like well-to-do Indian, Hispanic pushes to replace, Ronna McDaniel, who is a part of the Romney family, so like technically Mormon in that respect. And then, of course, like
she's part of the secret Mormon elite,
yeah,
the elite faction of Mormons,
sure. The other I can't make that joke. And so you have that, and then of course you saw that with Vivek Ramaswamy, like really pushing for her to resign. And this is in the backdrop of her having a contentious fight over the RNC chairmanship with Kamit Dillon, an Indian lawyer and GOP consultant, who I think is in New Hampshire. So you have that in the backdrop, like really piss poor party management, not great fundraising.
Nope.
We're now going to like crap the bed on with the Arizona law that came into place, like the abortion messaging, which of course was conveniently used when Trump said, "Listen, like we're in a pre-Roe world. We're back to the states. Like I'm not going to do anything on a federal level." Which, to me, despite being a pro-lifer, like I also know that, like, realistically speaking, that's as good as you're going to get right now. At least to win an election.
That's to win an election. Focus hard on immigration. Focus hard on economic.
And they're not doing any of that. Yeah. They were doing it for a little bit, and then of course there's a lot of kayfabe at the border with like Abbott and everything. but
Oh
nothing
God.
serious.
Yeah.
So like the actual institution of the party itself is just being dragged, kicking and screaming, nails clawing onto the floorboard, saying, "Please don't take me to November," because like there's not a lot. And plus, the 2022 midterms were awful. Like
Oh.
candidate quality was an issue. There was terrible campaigning. Like really, you're going to run Herschel Walker, and at the same time with his,
The
you know,
deranged schizophrenic
with
football player.
with of course like previous other issues with regards to like paying, and of course with a gay son that like tried to like turn against him in like the
That
ninth hour
tried
of
to
the
like me
election.
too him.
They tried to me too, and basically like your own gay son who's a big
My
you
black
know
gay son.
my black gay son. If Obama had a son, it'd be like Herschel Walker's son. It wouldn't be Trayvon Martin.
Just wanted him to. No, I can't.
It would be Christian Walker. It wouldn't be it wouldn't. But anyways,
I was just a GOP man till I found out my son was gay.
Did you see? I hate saying this, but did you see that the whole AI music generator bootstrapping values song?
Oh God, I think I saw that one. Yeah,
where he like kicks out his like white son who wants like white unity, and he like gets himself a buck named Tyrone who like watches clips of TikTok. Anyway, it's funny. I would recommend people look it up. But so all these things that like, the GOP
a lot of GOP politicians are probably they're like, I wish I could have adopted a black son.
The
so
GOP today came out with that video.
Like Thomas Sowell.
Yeah. They came. Well, yeah. Everyone wants. Notice how Millennial Woes pointed that out really great today. Like, notice how they always use Sowell or Clarence Thomas, the two exceptions to the rule, right? So the two exceptions to the rule, and it's you
could pick other black intellectuals who are more conservative. They exist. It's just you can't.
I feel like we would have known them already because the GOP worships these people. Like,
yeah, but they're too stupid to know about
Don't talk to me about candidate equality when John Fetterman is the current senator of Penn. Yeah, actually, I will talk to you about candidate equality, about the senator from Pennsylvania. Who would, if I'm a Republican and I'm all of a sudden now having to deal with Dr. Oz, who 5 minutes ago was pro transing the kids, and the guy that I really liked was screwed over because they thought the idea of, oh, let's get a big name celebrity to run against someone who's been in part of like the activist class of fucking Pennsylvania for most of his adult life. Yeah, candidate quality does matter. And I wasn't, no one in their right mind was excited to vote for Dr. Oz, who wasn't a Republican until 5 minutes ago.
Dr. Oz?
The same thing goes back to Herschel Walker, though. This is the other thing. It's just that instead, we're going to try and focus in fucking down in the South. We're going to try and focus to get the black vote with a former football star who's a Republican with a white wife, focusing on black areas, when they're not ignoring the fact that in Georgia, about 235,000 voters voted for the governor of Georgia, Kemp, but did not vote for Walker. And so, again, piss poor strategizing, piss poor campaign management, and piss poor candidates. It has, the whole candidate quality meme is a legitimate thing to consider. It just gets talked in a stupid fucking way. And it doesn't help that a lot of the messaging that came out of that election was now also having to deal with the fallout with respects to the Dobbs decision. And so it becomes an absolute mess of a shit show, to where it's also like John Ashford, if anyone remembers, or John Ashcroft from back in the Bush days. You lose an election to a literal dead man. Tell me how well we're doing here, guys.
I remember that Ashcroft quote. Yeah.
And so, the election's going to be a shit show because, again, it's not like anything has been done to correct the extrajudicial means of ballot harvesting, ballot collection, signature verification. None of that's changed. Dead people voting. I mean, it's such a shame that Norm Macdonald, hated libtards, but he's been voting Democrat ever since he died. And it's absolutely depressing.
And for those who don't know, who aren't American, what is the Dobbs decision?
The Dobbs decision was the decision by the Supreme Court recently that overturned Roe v. Wade and sent America's abortion laws back to the states. It's no longer a federal standard. It was a now back to the state issue.
If you really want to destroy abortion in America, I'll tell you how you do it. You get elected first, and then you screw with them with an army of pro-life lawyers and activists. This is what you got to do. And Trump said, I know that Trump isn't exactly crystal clear when it comes to ideology on the political right, but his point was valid that, and listen, it's a hard pill to swallow as an ardent pro-lifer such as myself, but it's true. During an election, focus on things that have at least some appeal to unsure, independents who don't want mass immigration, who don't want crime, who want some form of tort reform or whatever.
I
it's
mean,
not,
even
yeah,
as much as bullshit as like polls can be, and I know that polls are easy to manipulate the same way
yeah,
economic models are, but like when the emphasis was on the border, Biden's numbers went to shit. And I mean,
yeah,
also when you're so like concerned about the black vote, and I know this is sort of a meme, but it's like, come on, like really, we're gonna hold back banning menthol cigarettes out of fear of black backlash from black voters. Which I mean, again, even if like blacks voted on a like 60-40 ratio for Trump to Biden, you still need white voters to do this. Like the
yeah.
GOP is not speaking to those people. I don't know anyone who's really excited to vote down ticket Republican. I know a lot of people who are excited for Donald Trump, and you can see this in like Senate races and forecasting. Like the down ticket Republicans are not doing so well compared to the people's interest in the presidential election. Which I mean that tends to happen, but again, there's no party unity. There's no like grinning and bearing it. Unfortunately, Trump is not yet in prison for most of the GOP. They were hoping that, and I mean, there's still time. They could throw him in jail before the convention, but who knows?
They're praying to God that he got thrown in jail.
Yeah, they were really hoping for it. And then
no, but I wanted to ask you, Prue.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, but like about really quickly about the you mentioned about the party unity thing. What's going to happen when it comes to funding for Donald Trump's campaign for re-election? The GOP is going to screw him over, right? They're not going to.
Trump's been doing most of the fundraising himself.
Oh my God.
Like it's not.
No, but you realize how bad that is, though. If he's the candidate for the Republican Party and they're not helping him out, like how fucking bad this is.
Well, I mean, we saw that in 2020 too, where like all the money that like for the NRCC for like the Republicans and the Senate campaign funding. I mean, all that went back to like Lisa Murkowski in Alaska, where she was a fucking shoo-in.
That's how Blake Masters got screwed over. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Blake Masters got screwed over in a lot of ways. I mean, on the state level with elections and stuff, and like that place is going to be a blue stronghold until some of those Secretary of States and election people are defenestrated. And it's just that's the unfortunate ways. So like, I don't know how this election's going to go. I expect there's going to be a lot of bullshit on certain counties where it's important for the future of the electoral college vote. There's going to be some fucky stuff. But again, like there is so much stuff that can happen in the next, 6 months?
Yeah.
Between now and November. I have no idea what's going to happen because when is the election? Literally, what is it? November 6th? 2024 presidential election. Like, yeah, it is on
Henry Kissinger.
No, November 5th. Yeah, we are literally, November 5th, 2024. So we are now less than 6 months away from the presidential election of the United States. There's still so much shit that
there's so much up in the air. Yeah.
I mean, we don't know I don't know how the war in Gaza is going to conclude. I don't know if the ongoing shipping crisis in the United States is going to get any worse with regards to the Red Sea.
And Ukraine's getting rocked on the battlefield as well.
And I mean, not to mention the Ukraine situation. Then the Russians are sort of saying, hey, back off. We're going to do nuclear weapons drills. Which, I mean, so far that's been an effective kind of way to like signal to them the degree of seriousness, but also emptiness, because I don't know how willingly they are to use nuclear weapons. But on top of all this, I don't know what's to come. And I don't think anyone does. I'm sure someone out there with like some 500 follower account has called everything to a perfect T like Cassandra, and no one's heard them or not listened to them or told them to go touch grass. I'm not one of those people. And so I don't know. But again, it's still a tight presidential race. And we already know what Biden's going to run on. Biden's going to run on ballot harvesting. He's going to run on right-wing extremism. He's going to run on abortion, voting rights, and he's going to focus on women's issues. Because if there was one demographic that Trump did lose a little bit on in the 2020 election, it was white suburban female voters. And unless Trump finds a way to get that back into focus, it's going to be really hard, I think, because again, you have to win that vote. And unfortunately, as we've noticed with other really gay, stupid gender discourse on Twitter with like bears and everything, I think that Zero HP made a good point where he was just like, well, you kind of have like a male party and like a female party. And it's kind of strange to watch like political speciation between the sexes happen in real time. And you can notice this too with Gen Z, where like the men are far more conservative, the women are far more liberal. They say
for the first time ever, men are more religious than women in Gen Z.
Yeah, but of course, women are the standard bearers. Like historically, women were always more religious than men. Why? Because they were the ones that enforced sort of like the social standards. And now
I also think women have more of a mystical impulse as well.
I would agree with that. And so
they're more connected. Like even
Well, they're also the ones that bring life into the world. I think they, by nature, have a more
Well, even was it Saint Hildegard that said that about like women in the church have always been more of like mystics and sage, and they've occupied that more than like say theologians, right? I mean, some of them were theologians though. Like she was a theologian, but you know,
I thought she was known for her music in the Catholic Church.
Yeah, her music and also her mystical revelation stuff as well. No, but that's what I mean. Like it is strange. Like now I would push back a bit. And I would say that maybe ZHP is looking at things through the gender war stuff a bit too much. Like that's
kind of his bread and butter.
Kind of his bread and butter, right? So I think he's over reifying it, but there is something to be said, right?
Yeah.
But I just think that there's a lot of things, like even the bear meme. I think that, not to say that's an op or whatever, because these things do grow organically, but I think that there is.
Yeah, not everything is.
Not everything's an op.
Not everything is like that redheaded guy, you know, like the music.
Yeah, but certainly some things are pushed
of course.
To create division, right? So, I mean, I don't know, like you were like, to get back to the election, it is kind of weird that like the Republicans, they're, you know, it's like Henry Kissinger's quote, right? Like, I wish, too bad both sides couldn't lose. Like,
yeah, I know some people are saying I wish we could have 0 seats for the Republicans. It's not. We don't have the UK's electoral system. Like there will be gerrymandered red safe seats, even if they are become a minority party in the House or whatever. And I mean, the Republican majority is like one fucking vote anyway. Like the House of Representatives is basically Hakeem Jeffries' like playpen, and he's already openly said that, and it's true, because Speaker Johnson will side with the Democrats every single time, and that's just sort of the name of the game. But again,
people did predict that after they got rid of McConnell. Was it McConnell?
No, you're McCarthy.
McCarthy, yeah.
McConnell is stepping down from being Senate Majority Leader after this election cycle.
People were like, "Oh, Mike Johnson."
Actually, he's already stepped down. I think John Cornyn is he's a candidate for it.
Oh man.
But I mean, he's arguably worse than McConnell.
No, but same with Mike Johnson, like arguably worse. You know, like it's.
Well, he also has a black son, so.
My black son. I was just a GOP man till I found out. Oh my god. That's
at least
right
McCarthy made money. I mean, that is true. Hi Joshua BB, hello. Yeah, I know it's the new time, but I have a late night for work tomorrow that I'm not particularly happy with, but maybe I'll well, I've written a little bit about it. I've spent like the last week writing about work and sort of like what it's like being in dealing with like local government, which again, there's an obscene amount of power there. It's just that we've been talking so much about Washington.
You know what's funny is that there's something that Bob said that I think if Trump were to do this, it would really, if you could find a way to like, because think of it like bipartisanship in terms of like all those like aging Soilenio Bernie bros. If Trump were to find a way to like reform the workplace on a national level, like for example, if you had laws that would get rid of all of these like fake job program, like boot camps, or like putting people through hoops for job applications, or if you had a law to where employers could not mess with your personal life. For example, they couldn't hire or fire you based on the bad optics of your personal life or whatever. That would be like incredible. That would be revolutionary. If you couldn't get fired for your political opinions, like that would be like, you know, socialism done right. You know, that would be collectivism done right. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen. But
yeah, if Trump, you know, oh God, could you imagine the nightmare that would be? Like we get a.
You couldn't fire someone based on their political opinions. That would be incredible, you know.
My mind went to the worst thing ever, and I'm going to hate myself for saying it. But say that happens, right? Where it is like the Bronze Age shoddy Free Speech Employment Protection Act.
Oh my God.
And like I get it,
The
Elon Musk
Elon Musk Bronze Age Shoddy Protection Act.
I hate it already. I regret saying it out loud.
No, but think of it though. You could, if you were to like make, because they already do it for racism, right? Like you can't have discrimination in hiring based practices.
So you just want disparate impact doctrine, but for like right wingers on Twitter, which is
or for
fine.
anybody. Like you could be a communist, you wouldn't get fired.
No. Commies don't get jobs. Like I'm sorry.
Well,
like,
they get jobs, but it's
look,
NGOs and it's
okay. But if you wanted this to work, right, you would do basically, I've got like these homeland civil protection laws where like I can't hire you because you're someone who hates the country. I'm sorry, but that's the law. And if you want to like try and do it, like, well, we have to look at like disparate, homeland impact laws.
Yeah, there you go.
And you have to run them through the same kind of like procedural workarounds that like has happened with like anti-white stuff in America. And you do it over and over and over again. Where these commies, they're unemployed. They're ranting on the internet because it's the only place where they're allowed to exist. And eventually you'll clamp down on them too with free speech. And
no, but imagine if they dox a frog, they can't get fired if they dox a frog. Who cares?
I mean, that would be cool, but again, we have to work within some respects to how things would work. Forced acronyms in government are a plague. Oh yeah, it's terrible. In the same way that they'll call something like the Affordable Care Act, and it doesn't do shit, right? It's not affordable at all. But that's an old, one big ass mistake, America. And such a good time. Such a good time.
Well, I figure like if freedom of association is dead, then you might as well work within that confines to make it against your enemies, right?
Yeah, I mean, freedom of association is absolutely dead.
Yeah.
And that's really the frustrating aspect of it all. Like the Inflation Reduction Act, like the American, Making America Competitive or whatever, the TRAD Act. Yeah, employers would just find another reason. Like until you have more businesses that have a predominantly like right coded culture, and they're not going to, because like there are financial incentives that are in place to be progressive or state aligned and allied, and it is something to care for. Yeah, did you know Canada has free insurance? And it's got like the
TRAD Act.
Yeah, they've got free insurance. All right, they got free insurance in my life. Way to go, Canada.
But speaking of the TRAD Act, people were talking about the birth rates again, and it's
that's because Elon Musk had showed Bennett Flacktory's video.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but then again, like I agree with the critics in that focusing on it would just like in some ways increase the problem, because then like birth rates in the West are plummeting. Nobody wants to have children, so what are we going to do? We're going to bring in more immigration, like, you know what I mean? So it's not
I mean that's been the ongoing
war.
Well, I mean that's sort of the argument that you'll see from like the establishment, because they're like, yeah, there's a population bomb, and I need to do a proper review of it, because I did rant for like an hour with TR Hudson when I did this like foreign policy streamathon. It's like a 5.5 hour stream, but like basically what's his name? Oh god, it's escaping me now. Peter Zeihan's whole like the end of the world is just beginning, and he's outlining all of the things that like people on the right have been talking about for some time, but his argument is like,
with like libtard solutions.
Well, yeah, with neoliberal solutions. And he's just basically, okay, well, what we're going to do is my strategy.
We're taking the Canada model, he said.
He's basically saying my strategy for America is to be the least sick person when shit hits the fan. Which, again, that's kind of always been the strategy. But we're just going to import a cajillion immigrants, and we're going to survive, and America will be fine. And I love my fusion restaurants. And I'm just like, Peter, you can't. You can't. But he's got that, like, kind of gay cosmopolitan glowy vibe about him. But, I mean, that's probably what's going to happen, unless there's, like, some sort of regime change here in the United States. And that's probably not going to happen either. I remain cynical about how things are going to go here.
But that's what I mean. Like the birth rate thing, unfortunately, there really is no public policy solution, because places like Hungary have tried, and Poland. It doesn't.
You got to give people a reason to live.
You can't just give them money. Try giving women money. It's not going to work. Like you
need to give people a reason to live. And
you can give Haitian, you give migrants more money so they get more children. Like,
also like after the second generation, like their birth rate also like collapses as well.
No, exactly. I predict in the next few decades in Canada, the subcontinental migrant rate, their children are going to have way less children than their parents.
Yeah,
it's just a fact.
That'll happen. Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of like, especially in places like Vancouver, a lot of Indians, they vote for the Liberals.
But you need to give people a reason to live. Like that's for starters. And I mean, like there was a study that was done on political elections and fertility, and like the white birth rate increased during Trump's election.
Yes.
Whereas non-white populations' fertility went down to the same degree as unemployment causes, the decrease in fertility.
Yeah.
So one, give people a reason to live. That's a great start. But again, there's way more to deal with on top of that, because also you would need to provide an incentive or a massive cultural shift to tell basically half the workforce, i.e. women, to give up some autonomy and to give up some sovereignty.
And that's a politically sunsetting proposal.
I don't know if that's ever been done before in the history of modern politics. Because
in Iran, maybe, but not even.
Even then, a lot of women in Iran are college educated.
Yeah,
and I mean, and also and that leads to an uncomfortable question in the room: is that there is a positive correlation between how much children you have. Actually, it's more of a bell curve between how much children you have and your level of education. PhDs, for instance, women holding PhDs tend to have a lot of children, in the same way that women with little to no college education or no college education at all also have that. Master's degrees, bachelor's degrees, very few children.
No, but that's what I mean. Unless you're willing to enforce some cartoonishly evil type of thing, it's not going to work.
Well, yeah, unless you give them what you want. You give them Gilead, right? Which, I mean, like that's the fun right-wing Twitter reading of.
No, but isn't it crazy? No, but that's what I mean, Prude. Isn't it crazy that like incredibly educated women that are at like the elite levels of society?
Well, yeah, like I said, it's the bell curve meme.
Yeah, but like people that are functionary, like middle class people, their birth rates are dropping off like flies. So unless you can incentivize people of a midwit and middling education and a middling position in life, the way, for example, the post-war period in America in the 50s and 60s with a baby boom, unless you're willing to engineer elite levels of prosperity for everybody, which is not realistic and not going to happen nowadays.
Well, you'd have to reduce immigration to start.
Oh,
right?
Of course, yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, like the Bugman existence is just awful, and I mean, also people make a big deal about it, where it's like, oh, it's so like the guy who got who married his high school sweetheart, has a job, has a home, has a car, has a mortgage that he's obviously able to pay off, and he's doing those soulless like corporate life sucks, and there's no people in his like videos whatsoever.
The corporate on TikTok, TikToks, yeah,
and it's just
the
like
cold healing reposts, yeah.
Just he's got to go. He's just got to go. And of course, right now the battle is between the average Joe and the state, because again, the insurance, the law, the federal government, Title IX, all these regulations, everything that is out there says to me that my 6 out of 10 boyfriend that I met on Hinge or whatever is never going to provide for me in the same way the government does.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a libertarian sounding argument, but again, like there are massive legal incentives and structures to keep you in the workforce and to keep you advancing and moving up the corporate ladder and leaning in, as Sheryl Sandberg would like to say, and not to anything that would resemble, male caretaker. And of course, there's resentment to deal with. There's a laundry list of issues that don't ever get addressed because men's problems never really get addressed outside of toxic masculinity or people turning to extremism. And it does not help that for religiosity in America, like, you've got people that are, like saying like, oh, it's such a shame that like all these young men are like joining these like extremist movements on the left and right. They're not coming to church. And it's like, well, obviously they're choosing those things over your institution. You're not winning any souls. Like, congratulations, we're failing your job at evangelism. And so you just have, and again, we're all feeling up different parts of the of the elephant. There's so many issues that not one, I'm never going to answer it,
that's what I mean. It's unanswerable. Like, I agree that there should be some incentives or social safety net for people that do have families, obviously.
Oh yeah, I agree
I think that,
wholeheartedly.
people give single mothers, for example, a hard time. And, it's like, I know the stereotype, but I think that I'm not saying that in monetary incentives, they don't work, but it would be nice if there were a lot of safety nets for people that want families. And for in Des, I'm not saying that like women should marry. Okay, women should really want to marry drunk out of work idiots. That's the way. No, we're not saying that. But unfortunately, the people that do have children are kind of drunk out of work idiots in the lower levels, along with super elite people. So that's the problem, is that the people that shouldn't be having kids probably are having kids, and the people that should be having kids don't want to have kids, or they can't have kids. So it's like, it's a very fundamental problem of civilization. I mean, this is, you're incentivizing people that probably shouldn't have kids to have kids, and that aren't responsible. But that's just, I think even that's not even true anymore. I think even like lower class people don't have as much children anymore. So I don't know, man.
Maybe in a future episode we get Bennett on and we can talk about this issue better.
I
That would
just
be.
don't think there's a technocratic solution. I'm with you, Prude. It's more of a spiritual thing more than anything.
It's both.
Well,
the social techniques, and also like we poison ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
And of course there's not a big spiritual reason for it either, right? But hey,
but that's what I mean. Like, I'm just saying, like there are people that probably don't,
just like start stigmatizing the lonely, non-married children people. But again, that's only going to exacerbate the issue, because like a lot of people aren't having kids.
Yeah.
Again, it all goes back to Spangler talks about this. Yes, he does. I mean, we've made it optional, and we've made the idea of children not an obligation. And that's not just in America. That's data from all over
everywhere. Yeah.
And I think that's something to consider.
But that's what I mean. Like that's what I mean. Like it's just it's a civilizational bottleneck, and
I've done a real talk on that before. I think it's called the Bottleneck Wars. You can go listen to my take there. Although my life has radically turned around since I've made that video, so maybe I have a little more of that like
there you
bloomer
go
attitude. But yeah, I think that there's a lot there. But we're at an hour 30, and I don't want to go past 3 hours. There's one quick thing I wanted us to actually. Yeah, we'll go read it, because I was thinking about the nature of sort of like our friend over David Herod. He and I had a conversation. I think it led to the Substack that he wrote about how online politics is very PvP. It's very gamified and commodified, and it made me think about the nature of games. And I thought that we could do. Oh, they're asking, do you have a Buddha on the right there, Gio, right behind your lamp?
Yeah,
there you go. But yeah, so I was just thinking about understanding media has a whole chapter on games that we could read a little bit of it. So I'm going to go pull it up. This is from the second edition of Marshall McLuhan's Understanding Media. We are going over a chapter on games and the extension of man. So I'm going to go pull that up. Let me go zoom in here.
Oh, that was like the Jagoda book. Network Aesthetics also talks about games.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's probably a little more recent.
Oh yeah, 2018.
Which I definitely should probably get a copy
it's a good
of.
Book, yeah.
Yeah. I'm currently reading Graham Greene's The Power and the Glory, because T.R. Hudson wants me back on his podcast. So that's what I'm doing.
That's a great wrestling move, actually, a tag team wrestling move, Power and Glory.
Well, it's a historical fiction novel about the Cristero War in Mexico. And it's about Catholic priests.
That was when the American-backed government was persecuting the Catholic Church of Mexico, if I recall.
There's a lot of it's going to go into that. So far, I'm enjoying it. It's quite good. But yeah. So I'm going to start here.
So when was McLuhan McLuhan writing this?
This was published in 1964.
So this is way before the video game.
Way before the video game. But I think that it says a lot. I think that you can apply a lot of what he writes here to today.
Yeah.
So I'll start, and then I'll hand it over to you.
I like to think that McLuhan is looking down from heaven, watching Twitch streamers doing Let's Plays. So,
I hope he isn't.
I hope he's got better things to do.
I hope he's participating in the eternal glory of God and not looking down, lamenting over no one reading his fucking work.
Oh my god.
Although, if you want to know more about that, you can go watch my interview with his grandson, Andrew McLuhan, the head of the McLuhan Institute. You can go watch
Is
that
his
after
grandson
this.
a gamer?
No, his grandson is like a musician and a woodworker.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, he's like
he heeded his grandfather's warning.
I hope so. But he is. I have a lot of respect for Andrew because, as he said in the interview, and as he and I talked in emails setting it up, he did it because no one else was doing it, and it felt right to take up the family name. And I have a lot of immense respect for that, to carry on a family legacy that his father Eric did, and that his grandfather Marshall started out with.
That's like the grandson of Mad Mike Hoare. He's like archiving his father's work, you know? And people thought he was just like on Twitter.
That's a wrestling reference, isn't it, Gio?
No, you don't know about Mad Mike Hoare?
No, I don't.
He was a World War I and World War II vet who was a contractor, a PMC in Africa.
Oh, wow.
And he staged a number of coups, and he led an incredibly amazing life. And both BAP and Count Dankula did episodes on him. So he's like very much like an Ernst Jünger type of figure, Mad Mike Hoare. So
I'm gonna go look up his life after this.
Yeah. He was in the documentary at the very end in African Adito. So
well, there you go.
Yeah. Anyways, fascinating individual, by the way. One of those men who really lived like he was like a great man of history type, like an Ernst Jünger, like a warrior poet, you know. Oh yeah.
Great. Well, we'll get started here. So yeah. The wide appeal of games in recent times, the popular sports of baseball and football and ice hockey, is seen as outer models of inner psychological life.
Of course, you had to mention ice hockey, McLuhan.
Well, he's Canadian, you know. He's gotta get some Leaf representation.
He wrote this when the Toronto Maple Leafs won the cup the last time. Oh God! Oh, I'm so fucking sad.
I can just hear your heart break into a million.
When pieces. I saw Pastrnak shoot that goal over Samsonov's glove, it was over. My heart broke a little bit. I should have been prepared. You know, Game 7 against the Bruins in the first round. But anyways,
God bless you, Gio.
Yeah.
As models, they are collective rather than private dramatizations of inner life. Like our vernacular tongues, all games are media of interpersonal communication, and they could have neither existence nor meaning except as extensions of our immediate inner lives. If we take a tennis racket in hand, or 13 playing cards, we consent to being part of a dynamic mechanism in an artificially contrived situation. Is this not the reason why we enjoy those games most that mimic other situations in our work and social lives? Do not our favorite games provide a release from the monopolistic tyranny of the social machine? In a word, does not Aristotle's idea of drama being a mimetic reenactment and relief from our besetting pressures apply perfectly to all kinds of games and dance and fun? For fun and games to be welcome, they must convey an echo of workday life. On the other hand, man or society without games is one sunk into the zombie trance of automation. Art and games enable us to stand aside from the material pressures of routine and convention, observing and questioning. Games as popular art forms offer to all an immediate means of participation in the full life of a society, such that no single role or job can offer to any man. Hence the contradiction of the professional sport. When the game's that's Prince a little off there. When the game's door opening into the free life leads into merely a specialist job, everyone senses an incongruity.
Well, that's a great point that I believe Bo Jarrett also took from McLuhan, is that when the game becomes, when leisure becomes and I know like some people have done like a Marxoid interpretation of this as well, but like when the game or when the social form of escapism becomes reinscribed into the social order, especially when it becomes reinscribed in the economic order, then you have a lot of like very weird contradictions where the game now becomes part of everyday life. And it becomes part of your grind set, you know what I mean? And then that's when you have like a supreme form of self-alienation to where even pleasure or leisure becomes something that's like just another trap towards the social itself. So it's funny he's pointing this out. I'd imagine he was probably like looking at those crowds in Maple Leaf Gardens, and he's like, "Yeah, you people, this is like a religion to you people, So, yeah,
Well, I mean, I also think about just sort of all the, these are
Twitch
things.
streamers and Let's
Well,
Players."
no, because he's talking about like, these are sort of like escape pressure release valves from like the pressures of everyday work life.
Hmm.
And I just think about every single simulation game that's on like Steam right now about farming or trucking or driving.
Yeah.
Uh, and so,
Or even like the legalization of sports betting has destroyed a lot of pro sports. I mean, hockey's is definitely one of them, because it's like whole like leagues of sport of making decisions basically on the financial backstring of most people. And it's a way of like a weird form of engineering reality, if that makes sense, where to get maximum profit back for sports betting apps, you have to like like, even if it's not conscious rigging, there certainly is like a narrative put in place in a lot of professional leagues. People have like rumored that the NFL has been rigged for like multiple decades now. And hey, like, listen, all sports are fake except for professional. Well, I shouldn't say professional wrestling's actually quite fake nowadays, but all sports are fake except for professional wrestling, because that's the model. Like, if you don't think UFC is like quote unquote, you know, guided a certain way, then yeah, having a nice family with your virtual wife. People were freaking out. There were Zoomers freaking out about the first edition of The Sims, where all the family members are eating watermelon together. Did you see that, Prude?
no, I've been off the TL for like a week, so no, I
Like,
haven't.
these Zoomer leftoids were freaking out about the Sims game having this like wholesome family moment where they're all eating watermelon together. And they're like,
Yeah.
why were they doing that? Why are they doing this is incredible. It's just
But a game trying to like mimic like basic social techniques of a family being together, that's insane to consider.
yeah, but like when those social
Ooh.
techniques are gone, the game becomes like either a
Yeah,
nostalgic
the game
piece.
becomes a foreign like culture all within
Yeah,
entirely.
it's like when leftoid MB Zoomer kids rediscover 90s media that's quote unquote problematic. It's like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Like, yeah, were there trans jokes in Jurassic Park? Yes.
Yeah, right. No one
You know,
was ever happy, real or virtual.
I remember that
No,
one
your
episode of
your
EA.
e-wife is not real. She was never happy with you. She cheated on you with a set of pixels in the same way that those 1950s drinking men has cheated on
Remember
their
that one
wives.
episode of DA where I remember you saying, nobody was ever happy. Nobody was ever functional in the past, remember? Yeah.
I feel like
That
I've
was
done that rant more than once, so
yeah, but it was funny one time, remember? Nobody was
uh,
ever happy. Nobody ever had a normal middle class existence.
no one ever had a normal one, by Jove. Exactly. No one ever had a normal one.
Yeah.
Uh,
The
but I mean,
game
the game is an extension of man, though. It is
mm,
true. Like what you do
it's
play, I
true.
think, is a reflection of who you are as a person, and of course that could be algorithmically tinkered with. Which again, I think this is why. And that was a fun thing I had with Andrew, where he was just like, everyone is so content focused that
Mhm.
it's been 60 years since this book came out. He's like, no one is really studying how the medium itself affects you.
Right.
Media is just the plural for medium, but like, why does this like algorithmically, manipulating system that you're in? Like, I mean, like Zoomer memes talk about this, where they're like, oh, like you don't have a personality, like you just have whatever the algorithm told you. Da 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 da. Like, to a large extent, that's true. You're very programmable. You are not immune to propaganda, but at the same time, right? Like in the same way, like games now, like what group of people decided to tell me that Fallout New Vegas is like a transcore game? In what fucking world? Excuse me? What?
Essential transcore. Yeah.
Essential transcore, and it's like every game that came out from like 2009 to 2013, and I'm like, huh,
Same with
huh,
anime.
gets the
Yeah.
noggin jocking, like I don't know, like I don't think those games did it. I'm pretty sure some other stuff did, but those become an extension. I mean, like, I guess like the fake persona of like the RPG character, like, oh, you play as a woman, oh, you know, bisexuals do double damage to like both men and women on Fallout New Vegas, and it's just like,
Did you see the trans? No, I'm not going to bring up the trans voice actor. That's too bad.
Oh, the one from Dead by Daylight that stopped taking
Sunset,
life-giving
yeah,
treatment
yeah.
for an autoimmune disorder.
Yeah, passed
Wow.
away.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, it's a sad story.
The considering the voice that person was playing for in terms of character, the irony is palpable. But I
Well,
will
no,
not.
but it's the same.
I won't. I'm
Yeah.
not going to go mock the person's death.
No, we're not going to mock, the deceased. But no, but like
Well, that's not true. We've said Rip Bozo on the show more times than we probably would like to.
Oh, that's true. It's true. I mean, I was mocking Ruth Bader Ginsburg pretty hard that time. But no,
Ruth Bader Ginsburg died in 2020. That was long before this show started.
No, well, at the time, I remember. Well,
oh, you did the whole painting too. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg died to end abortion.
Yeah. Oh my god. After her, the deluge came. But no, but the game, like, yeah, it's like there definitely is. Based on what I think, I don't know whether it's algorithmically engineered or it's a chicken and egg in the sense of I think like one's temperament in life gears them towards certain forms of media. Like that's just a fact. It's almost as if you are a particular temperament or if you have particular life experiences, it's almost natural that you gravitate towards certain forms of media.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like it's a chicken and egg problem. Like there was this great long post I read about how because of the Western culture industry forsaking the romance novel or forsaking the idea of romanticism, that's why like a lot, like there's the creation of like the weeb, because like now anime has a lot of sentiments that aren't exactly expressed in a lot of Western animation or in Western storytelling in general. So you have like the true higher of romanticism is basically the East, which is really crazy. Because there's like a form of authenticity. And even like nowadays, I would say that you don't want to like truly exoticize a lot of different forms of media, because certainly there is like a lot of schlock and a lot of culture industry stuff that is even in the manga and anime industry that but like I mean, a lot of Western, yeah.
Didn't we just watch, sorry to interrupt, but I mean, like, didn't we just watch like 7 months ago, like the collective shit show over the Mickey D's ad in Japan?
Yeah.
Well, and then that, and then you of course have the localization stuff that also causes culture war issues here in the US.
Yeah. But I think like there is a lot of schlock that's made in Japan. It's just that I think that like there is something to be said about how when certain sentiments that appeal to large swaths of people are totally abandoned by the culture industry present within our civilization, then you do have sort of a weird form of exoticism that then becomes very attractive to people, and then they have to familiarize themselves with a different form of media and a different form of artistic expression because of it. And I think like, you know, and this phenomenon is much older than we think, because like globalization of culture is much older than we think, right? So it's sort of like, you know, it's like Western painters looking at Japanese woodcuts and being like, oh yeah, that speaks to me, right? Because Western academicism is very rigid and so forth. So it's very, this stuff has been going along for a long time, but it is kind of evident now how a lot of Zoomers, like, they identify with anime more than they do like the kid shows that we grew up with, you know. Like, I mean, you were even talking about like giving people a purpose to live, which is something that's really crazy. Something I forgot to mention 20 minutes ago is that like what's really crazy, I remember the whole thing about like how because people told homophobic jokes in high school back in the 2000s, that it was terrible and evil, and that viral video went of like high school in 2004, you remember? But when you look at the teen sunsetting rates, it's
insane.
It's a dip in the like from the mid 90s to the 2000s. It goes like that. And by the time you get to 9/11 and 2008, it just shoots way up.
Yeah.
Because you have culture created that was largely youth orientated. I think that's one explanation. Of course, the prosperity of the mid 90s and early 2000s another, but you have like, if you were a millennial, if you're a soylennial like we are, and you grew up in the early 2000s.
Speak for yourself.
Well, you know, I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah.
Like, if you were like a kid in the early 2000s,
you're the one with the soy jack, not me. So I'm just saying.
Well, true. Yeah, I made that mistake on air. But you brought this on yourself.
Brought this on yourself. You get what you grift. But yeah, no, it was really funny.
You get what you fucking deserve. I remember someone telling me with a Legally Blonde. Someone posted a reply with the Joker. You get what you fucking deserve.
Oh, Lord of mercy.
Oh, man. No, but
everyone told me in Xbox Live that they fucked my mom, but I moved on. I always enjoyed the, well, my mom's dead, you know?
Yeah, that was great. Yeah. No, but like, that's what I mean. Like, Chud, like you were a millennial Chud in the early 2000s. Culture was largely geared towards you. And so, of course, it was still a very heterosexual culture. This is a very controversial statement. I know I'm going to get flack for this. And I don't endorse him because he worked with a lot of evil people and he was probably evil himself. But I watched the whole Nickelodeon documentary, and Dan Snyder probably prevented a lot of teen sunset. Oh my God, I can't even say it. But Dan Snyder was responsible for preventing a lot of misery in a lot of children's lives, a lot of millennial lives at the time. And that's just an objective fact. And you can be, like, to quote Ric Flair, you can be mad about it, you can seethe about it, but it's the truth. Nickelodeon and teen culture and like early preteen culture was responsible for the joy in a lot of children's lives. And by the time you get to like the destruction of teen media in the mid 2000s and the cultural dead zone of the 2010s, it was all over. And what happens? Teen sunset rates go way up. So make of that what you will. I'm not defending Dan Snyder. He was an evil guy, okay? Like Trump said, he was an evil guy. But, you know, Nickelodeon helped a lot of preteens out back in the day. Let me tell you, boy.
Well, there's
man, it was worth the sacrifice.
I mean, there was definitely.
First of all, it wasn't Dan Snyder doing the unspeakable. It was people around Dan Snyder that were more evil than he was. So, you know what I mean? It was like what could happen to Drake from Drake and Josh. It wasn't Dan Snyder. Dan Snyder was the only guy to help Drake out when he was being, you know, by that guy Daniel Peck. So, Dan Snyder was an evil guy. Peck. But what'd you say, Prude?
I said not related to the other Peck.
Well, apparently, yeah, not related to the other Peck. But no, I mean, it's very funny how they try to do the whole thing with Dan Snyder, how he's like evil because he's racist and sexist. But it's like everyone else in Nickelodeon was like objectively worse than Dan Snyder.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Disproportionate number of Nickelodeon kids in the DR.
That's very true. That's very true.
I don't know.
Well, hey, even Adam Baldwin started Gamergate, so, you know.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible.
Maybe Drake and Josh, make Drake from Drake and Josh. Maybe he's a secret frog. Who knows? Maybe Josh is a secret frog from Drake and Josh. He's got an alt account. He's got a Graper alt account. No, I'm kidding. I don't know that. Let's read on, Prude.
Yeah, let's read on, shall we?
Listen, I'm not defending Dan Schneider. He did very terrible things. But I'm just saying.
You're going to make me watch this fucking documentary.
It's a great documentary, Prude. It's a great documentary. It's on BitChute for free. So.
It's Josh Peck Groiper.
Josh Peck Groiper! Oh, no.
He gripes himself.
Oh, my God.
It's on what for free? BitChute for free?
It's on BitChute for free, yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna watch this.
It's good. It's a good documentary. I agree.
I hate you. Okay,
but the thing is, like, they did go over, like, oh, he was racist. He was
for free. Oh, it's free, all right, but you have to deal with BitChute.
You have to deal with BitChute. Yeah. It's an off chronology. Yeah.
Dear God.
Anyways, a game is a machine. I'm not defending. Listen, I'm not defending Dan Schneider. I'm just saying when you gear culture towards the youth, that, in my opinion, correlates to a lot happier, a lot of children who won't contemplate the negative consequences of the modern world. Put it that way. So make of that what you will. And statistics prove my point. Look at the teen sunset rates, and the early 2000s was a paradise for preteens, right? And for teens in general. So, and by the time you get to 2008, it's all over. So I'm sorry for that divergence.
I'm sure you have something there. I just want to make sure it's not like a spurious correlation. But escapism is over. I think that's the big reason. This is the escapism is dead. But even then, our escapism is political.
It's not just teen culture; it's economic factors as well. Prude. I'm just saying.
No. I get what you mean. But I mean, the escapism comment I thought was interesting because it's just like our escapism is also political. What are you going to do in the communist commune? What are you going to do in the anarcho commune? What are you going to do in the based world? What are you going to do in the ethno state? There's, the obvious
pure escapism's dead. Yeah,
political escapism. But also, you had, of course, the Obama era came in. The war was only going to be increased. The economic situation at home did not improve, and so you have a generation of people that were entirely either laid off or looking for work, finishing high school and college, that are just oh, well, the world is not what I thought it was going to be. And the world kind of sucks. And I got to get used to that. There's things to consider there.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah.
Nuclear, Drake and Josh better than Drake and Kendrick. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Oh, my God.
Are you afraid of the dark precedent? Yeah, well, someone was. But this paragraph. Go ahead.
Oh, the games of people reveal a great deal about them. Yeah, see, that's true. Games are a sort of artificial paradise like Disneyland, or some utopian vision by which we interpret and complete the means of our daily lives. In games, we devise means of non-specialized participation in a larger drama of our lives, of our time. But for civilized man, the idea of participation is strictly limited. Not for him, the depth participation that erases the boundaries of individual awareness, as in an Indian cult of darshan, the mystical experience of the physical presence of vast numbers of people. A game is a machine that can get into action only if the players consent to become puppets for a time. For individualist Western man, much of his adjustment to society has a character of a personal surrender to the collective demands. Our games help both to teach us the kind of adjustment and also to provide a release from it. The uncertainty of the outcomes of our contests make a rational excuse for the mechanical rigor of the rules and procedures of the game. I think that's a brilliant point, because when you think of games as a collective form of ritual, for instance, there was a fear. I don't know how much it's felt nowadays because of how fraught the work situation is for most people, but there was a time where there was a fear over the increasing need for specialization and how you were only going to be presented a limited number of options based on what position you were getting slotted into in the workforce. But when you think of I'm thinking of an ARG, a lot of these expansive ARG things. There was that one Canadian actor that actually made a mini series about this, where you take normal people who have normal jobs and who have normal lives, and they're very specialized, but now you give them a sort of mythopoetic narrative to which they can LARP, and they could be something other than their job trajectory, their education, their specialization. And I think that is something powerful, because there was a time, particularly in America, where you had the idea of the total man, to where a normal, for example, in the 50s, a normal middle-class person could go home and read Popular Mechanics, and they could become a tinker in their garages.
I loved that as a kid, even as it got more poppy, about whatever.
Yeah.
But there was still stuff that it would tell you how to build or what to work on or teach you about chemical reactions and things, like popular science, popular mechanics. I mean, that my like the two things I really appreciated like growing up is that my grandfather always gave me all of his like copies of astronomy like magazine that would come out every like month or so. So I had like piles and piles and piles of those. And then like you could read all ththese things. Now they're not there. But like this whole surrendering to like the collective. Like you see that with like MMORPGs are like the great example. Like you're surrendering to the collective for like a guild system, or like raids, or how like certain things, or EVE Online is a really good example of this. Like we are surrendering a little bit of our own autonomy to join this larger collective in order to play. But now we have very specialized participation in games, at least like video games, at least.
In mimics real life, there's very specialized participation.
There's very specialized jobs, but there's also specialized rules in like actual organized sports. Like there's the quarterback, there's the running back, there's the tight end. You're playing defense, like, and the same with hockey, right? Like you have your forwards. All this sort of stuff is there, but for us, like our participation isn't just limited anymore. Like the thing about games themselves have also inversely affected work to where we have gamified our actual levels of employment, or we gamify relationships. We gamify not just relationships, but we gamify our day-to-day tasks.
Key performance indicators,
key performance indicators, like your KPIs. And the same thing with like your DPS, right? Like how much damage per second, all that sort of stuff. And all of a sudden, like there's been such a blur between the two. But at least with respects to video games, or at least the good ones, you have a power fantasy that comes with that. Like, I gotta like spec stuff out, but like, what's more satisfying than like having a build in say like Dark Souls, or I'm playing Remnant 2 with my friend Capitalissimo from the Sidebar podcast, and it's just like, okay, can we synergize builds and things like that? We're like playing all these runs to get specific stuff to make it even better for a run that we're doing, and it's just like all of a sudden it turns into an experience of like I'm aware, but I'm also like the boundaries of game and self kind of disappear for a little bit, because I'm on I'm on the call with my friend playing a game while we're talking about work, and we're talking about what we're recording and what we're doing. And so now all of a sudden, like any sort of like separation between like the sport or game and play has disappeared into a sort of new sphere style collective. All of a sudden, like all of us are kind of aware of like how games are. Or the recent review bombing news about like Helldivers 2, and like, oh, we want you to connect to a PSN account. Well, it's like, well, that cuts out like most of the world. But I mean, they're kind of focusing on Sony making money, so people review bombed, and they said that they were going to reverse that. War Thunder recently had that happen last year, where like people were review bombing the shit out of it due to like the economic changes to the game. So like now it's not just individual awareness, like you're also consciously aware as a quote unquote community, as a team, as a collective, as a niche sub-civilization fandom, basic assumption group for XYZ. Like actually, the game, the machine that makes you happy, we don't want to be a corporate puppet. We don't want to be a Sony shill. We don't want to be a console war guy. And it's very interesting because now things are so digital, and there's very little emphasis I've noticed on a lot of like physical contact in martial sports. I don't pay attention to a lot of like team sports, but I really like baseball, and I really like fencing. And I'm planning to, once I move a little closer to my job, I plan to get more involved with a fencing club in that area and do that stuff again. But like, we don't really talk about that either anymore, outside of the guys that really focus on like the vitalism. And again, the nice thing is that most of these people actually look the look when you do meet them IRL. They're like, oh yeah, you actually do these things. Like, oh good, you're a put together person.
No, but also like I think when it comes to the workplace, like I know a lot of like employers will do the whole like you're here for the mission thing, so therefore it's like psychologically preparing you to like take a pay cut or whatever, because you're here for this like higher purpose. But I think like, I mean, you don't want to really go by the propaganda of different eras, like particularly the 1950s. But I think there probably was a time in Western civilization where a populace did feel like being a functioning person, having a job, going and doing something, being an engineer, like that was sort of like you're building a quote unquote future and we're all in this together. Like, and who knows, maybe if that was kind of BS, or maybe it was a sort of propaganda Norman Rockwell picture of the time. But I noticed, but nowadays things are so kind of like you're on your own, and you're not really like, as a civilization, you're really building towards a collective anything. You're building towards either root survival, or you're building towards some kind of like corporate monstrosity. You're not really like invested in what you're doing on the day-to-day life, because like what you're doing is probably just a bullshit job, and you're just doing it because you're a wagey and you have to do this, and it's not really conducive to a greater picture or greater narrative. And a lot of those narratives are probably crap anyways. I'm not saying that, I'm not like a boomer saying like, oh, the 50s had a great narrative about like existence, but there was a sort of sense of like, you were like, for example, you were an American, you were building towards the future for America, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of it was probably just being propagandized at you by, a lot of people in think tanks or whatever. But there still was
happens now with video games.
Yeah. It's a virtual feeling of like you're supporting like this video game, and you're going at it, and you're part of a community, you're part of a subculture, you're part of a fandom that has to sustain itself.
You're part of a community.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, it's also a parcel of destruction of like real life spaces, high trust society. Like, again, it goes back to immigration so often, doesn't it? And so like the distraction in third place, the retreat into the digital, of course, the recent lockdowns, things that with the COOF didn't help either. And then all of a sudden, like, you're in this position where it's like, wow, like really the only escape is into these like digital simulations and simulacra of my real life, like, boy, oh boy, I love these.
Also
like,
naturally
yeah. That is absolutely true. But like when you're not being propagandized, for instance, I mean, like, hot damn is like Treyarch and Infinity Ward of them have really close connections to the United States Department of Defense for great consulting work for video games and political narratives that are safe to use, etc., etc. In the same way that like when they remade Red Dawn, right? Like, we can't talk about the Russians invading, and we can't talk about the Chinese invading, so it's the North Koreans invading the United States. Excuse me, country that's like, God, that I don't know, like an eighth of the size of America. Like, come on. Yeah. But I mean, that's just sort of the nature of how gaming has become. Yeah, delusion versus not being able to pay rent, and I mean that's true.
Yeah. No, but I think like even like a lot of political things are also like even these campus protests, a lot of it is trying to just recapture the myth of collective action. Like even Occupy Wall Street did this for millennials, and now Zoomers have their anti-Israeli genocide thing going on. So it is sort of like there's a je ne sens in a way of like political collective action that is very often stripped from the subject in our current iteration of Western civilization, to where not just that political action is threatening, but rather political action is given to you in a sort of simulated way. Although this is different because a lot of elites don't exactly agree with this form of political action, there still will be an attempt to appropriate it, obviously. I mean, look what happened with Occupy Wall Street. So that would like Occupy Wall Street became like an ARG. Like, it became, you know what I mean? It became like any sort of expression of identity trumped the actual like reason as to why people were there in Zuccotti Park or wherever.
Yeah, the performance outweighed like any sort of actual justifiable.
Exactly. Outrage. Because the reality is that what were those people going to do against the bankers and against corporations that took a huge cut? That took a cut from the government, and the rest of the little people got screwed. What were they honestly going to do? Right? It wasn't like they were like, and again, I'm not encouraging any political violence, but it's not like they were going to like go into like Wall Street or going to banks and like throw the CEOs. It's like, it's not. It was an RPG with the political companies. Yeah,
I'm sure there were people that were like, ready to do the whole, do you hear the people sing deal? But all of a sudden,
and the conservative version, of course, was the Tea Party. But nobody remembers the Tea Party. But yeah.
But I mean, like the rules that have emerged was sort of like these communities or these collectives
Mhm.
is that, of course, everything becoming political, like you have been forced now to either assume these basic political tenets of belief inside the collective. Like,
Mhm.
no, you will accept the transgender voice actor. No, you will accept the like diverse black woman yelling at your like straight white male protagonist character. You will accept the fact that there is nothing that looks like the majority of people who play video games. And so the individuation really has only kind of emerged as a byproduct, I think, of sort of like the consciousness of
Mhm.
politics raining down on your escapes. It's like
Yeah.
no one's playing, like there's no one's making like some really cool, heavy inducive one-man adventure like Ultima, like no one's doing that anymore. We're like, oh, the map that you gave me, the little booklet of history and this like thing that you gave me with the box plays part of it. I mean, some indie projects do that, which I think definitely helps in that respect.
Yeah.
But nowadays, and he'll get into this about the social conditions. When social rules change suddenly, then previously accepted social manners and rituals may suddenly assume the stark outlines and the arbitrary patterns of a game. The gamesmanship of Stephen Potter speaks of the social revolution in England. The English are moving towards social equality and the intense personal competition that goes with equality. The older rituals of long accepted class behavior now begin to appear comic and irrational gimmicks in the game. And so, I mean, like the hyper
Mhm.
egalitarian, like the gay race communism we got in America, right? Like all of a sudden, you gotta bend towards that because the social trends do
Well,
that, and so the culture reflects that.
well, that's another point I would make is that like Hannah Arendt said this about the Spectator in Life of the Mind, how like real politics happens through the Spectator, through the actual discourse of politics, right?
Yeah.
But the more you think about it, I know AA is going to smile at this, by the way. Actual politics kind of doesn't have like it does in the sense that discourse is the generator of political um in a sense the generator of political action, right? The spectator is the one who possesses the real, and she's getting this from Kant, right? The observer and the spectator gets the real essence of politics because that's where it happens. But if you were to like counteract that with elite theory, the spectator is almost kind of irrelevant, or not irrelevant, but in the sense of like the spectator can be guided in a variety of ways that negates the actual contemplation of the spectator. So Arendt, I think, would probably be like her thesis of the spectator would be negated in like the digital world to where the spectator is everywhere, but the spectator is at the same time also powerless because
Mm.
basically theory trumps that thesis. Because of course Anna Arendt was a liberal, and so she believed that the spectator possessed a great power of political discourse and would eventually influence action because really the actors of politics are appealing to this greater awareness of the spectator, right? But that's kind of not true anymore. Like elite theory kind of is more correct than that. So I mean, it's a very complicated thesis. Maybe we could read that chapter one day, but
Oh,
I think
I would like to because I haven't
yeah,
read Hannah Arendt since college.
yeah. I mean, it comes up in my book. I talk about that thesis about the spectator.
Speaking of which, I'm so glad that you did not do anything super reference to our chat conversation earlier.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. There was one animation from a particular government about a particular procedure after a soldier dies. I remember
I'm
reading half
I'm
of it, wrote
I'm
like
glad I'm glad
I
because
can't
if I'm gonna have to narrate that book, it's gonna take a while.
I can't wait for some like 20 follower Groiper account to be like, you didn't name them in the book.
It's only a matter of time.
Oh
Uh,
my god.
yeah, I look forward. Yeah,
No, but
yeah.
even like when I
You're
like
you're aiming for what, September release?
yeah, but like even when I cite like for example Clement Greenberg favorably, it's like I even say I'm like I don't agree with everything he said because then Clement Greenberg became like this weird tastemaker, but then by the time the 70s came, he wasn't a tastemaker, he was a curmudgeon. And so
Hmm.
it's like I know that Clement Greenberg started a lot of like quote unquote degeneracy in the art world, but I think like there was things that Clement Greenberg said in the 50s and 60s that was largely correct about the way things
Hmm.
were going. Or sorry, about the 30s. He wrote that essay on kitchen, the avant-garde in like the 30s, but it's still true to this day, I think. But anyways, yeah, go ahead. It's a long digression.
No,
But
you're good.
yeah.
Yeah. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People first appeared as a solemn manual of social wisdom, but
That
it
came out in the
seems
60s?
Uh,
Oh my
pretty sure it
god!
came out earlier than that.
Wow.
How to Win Friend. Yeah, that came out. 1936. Dale Carnegie.
That came out in 1936.
Yeah, it was like one of the big first self-help books.
Whoa, that's like that started the self-help industry.
Well, I mean, he'd been doing like business education, how to be a better man type deals since like the turn of the century. But
Same with Earl Nightingale, was like one of the first self-help gurus. Yeah.
but it seemed quite ludicrous to sophisticates. What Carnegie offered as a serious discoveries already seemed like naive mechanical ritual to those beginning to move in the milieu of Freudian awareness charged with the psychopathology of everyday life. Already, the Freudian patterns of perception have become outworn code that begins to provide the cathartic amusement of a game rather than a guide to living.
Yeah, he's right.
Which
He's
is
right.
which is a lot of ways. Like, if people will joke saying like some of the like red pill manosphere stuff is like sales psychology applied to women. It's not 100% wrong. It's not 100% right either, but like, yeah, it kind of is. Like, it is gamifying it in a lot of ways.
Well, like Freudian psychoanalysis became sort of a game for upper middle class people around this time. So there was sort of in the 60s, there still was that like Freud becoming either like an academic bauble or Freud becoming a weird form of self-help. But of course, his prescriptions were very narrow and didn't really account for a lot of different things, which of course Jung critiqued him at the time. But I think like, yeah, Freudianism definitely became like this pop TV psychology stuff by the time McLuhan was writing. And so even to this day, like a lot of assumptions of Sigmund Freud is like gets bandied about by like pop culture and even by people that are developing media. Like there's a lot of Freudian assumptions about things that go unnoticed. But and the whole like myth of like the whole mythos of like the psychoanalyst as well was very powerful at the time of McLuhan writing, because of course when the hippies went to grad school, then they sort of there was this pastiche of psychoanalysis that I think is not there anymore, but it's still like kind of there a little bit. Like you could even say like there's even like the popification of Jung, which I despise immensely. And unfortunately, Jordan Peterson helped pave the way for that. Even people before him, but like there still is like the myth of the psychoanalyst that's very popular in media today. And yeah,
Yeah. No, I get where you're saying.
Mm.
The social. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
No, you read it.
Yeah, the social practices of one generation tend to get codified into the game of the next. That's very true. Even music is like that. Finally, the game is passed on as a joke, like a skeleton stripped of its flesh. Oh, sorry, like a skeleton stripped of its flesh. This is especially true of a period of suddenly altered attitudes resulting from some radically new technology. It is inclusive mesh of the TV image, in particular, that spells for a while at least the doom of baseball. For baseball is a game of one thing at a time. Fixed positions and visible delegated specialist jobs, such as belong to the new passing mechanical age, which is fragmented task in its staff and line in management organization. TV at the very image of the new TV as the very image of the new corporate and participant ways of electric living foster habits of unified awareness and social interdependence that alienate us from the particular style of baseball, with its specialist and positional stress. When cultures change, so do games. Baseball, that has become the elegant abstract image of an industrial society living by split-second timing, has in the new TV decade lost its psychic and social relevance for a new way of life. The baseball game has been dislodged from the social center and it's been conveyed in the periphery of American life. And you know what really became popular in the TV age? You know what I'm going to say. In terms of sport,
you're gonna say
professional wrestling. Yeah.
Well, at the time of this writing, I was going to say football and game shows.
Oh yeah, game shows and football. Yeah. Although I don't know about football, like why, like because football is very regimented and has a lot of specialist rules and positions. So I don't know. McLuhan. I mean, it is crazy how football does have a hold in American life, like nothing else. I mean, I've never enjoyed football, so maybe I don't know why, but
well, I mean, I can't relate to older football. I mean, like there are people that will talk about like 70s football, and I mean back then to do all those play calls and everything when you don't have like the play call wrist thing and the mic and the like, that probably was a way better game to watch, to see people
Oh
like
yeah.
actually play their hearts out. I mean, that'd be way different. But everything now is so over commercialized, and not to mention the politics of it all. It's just like really hard to care because it stopped being about the game. It started being more and more about the personality in that respect. But I mean, like baseball to me, like when I like baseball, when I tell people that I like baseball, they ask me why, because they're like, it's so slow and it's so boring and it's always, and I said, you can't look at it as a whole. Don't look at it in sort of this gestalt. You really can't do that. You really have to appreciate baseball from what he's saying here. This like very fixed thing that can happen very quickly.
Yeah.
And what I appreciate about it the most is that every play, every pitch, everything that comes along is something that could change the game forever. There are a lot of baseball games that have happened in the last, like, I mean, throughout all the game's history. But like you can have like, it can be a 5-1 game, and then there's just one inning where everything breaks down, and then it becomes 7-5, and then all of a sudden you're on top again. And you watch for those split-second moments where the pitch goes the right way, the batter finally has this swing and he takes it. Like there's something really enjoyable about that, where it's not as heavy on one specific. I mean, it's still heavy on the player and the specific skill of each one, but there's this far greater emphasis on like the play-by-play. And not sort of the like, oh, here's how the team's doing this season. Oh, we're gonna like. I think John Madden maybe has some responsibility to this, but I don't know. I've always liked baseball more, and that's sort of the case to it. But
but like all sports have to modernize in this way because of the awareness of the audience and the awareness of like the greater media that it's being presented as. Like even hockey, like it's like hockey, like for example, the rules that changed over the years is predicated towards skill, goal scoring, speed. Has to be like goal, because because hockey is traditionally a very low scoring game, unlike basketball or like football even. So there is like an engineering of the play being made to where there's less breaks, there's less end of play in terms of the puck, and there's like a cross ice shooting. And so like, and that's why, like, for example, the enforcer is going by the wayside, because it's like, even though fighting is such a spectacle and such an integral part of hockey, for some reason the league thinks it prevents gameplay. So it's like, oh, well, we're gonna have more scoring, and it's like, the enforcers, they can't score. So it's like, yeah, it's I think even football has been modernized that way, right? Like football has to have different rules, and
I mean the rules have changed so much even since I've been alive. I mean, it's crazy to think about how like
has baseball tried to modernize to have like more.
I mean, there's been some changes, but yeah, I mean, all sports are really more about the runs, the plays, the scores more than anything else about it. But no, I just watched 2 weeks of snooker, very satisfying. And I'm not gonna. I don't play snooker. I mean, I used to play a lot of pool, but watching that's also really entertaining because that's about skill. That's also about the randomness and the circumstances of where it is. And they put a clock in baseball. Shake my head. Yeah. I saw someone mention a Ken Burns documentary about it. Like there's something about baseball that has a finality to it. There will be 27 outs, which is true. But pool is something I really quite like to play because it's like, you don't know what position you're going to be in. You don't know how well that ball is going to hit. Like you're going to put a spin to it. How long, like, there's a lot that goes into it. And there's a mental thing to appreciate, especially as an outsider. Like all the old Italians, just sitting there watching the construction site. It's like watching this guy try and like, all right, how's he gonna like hit his way out of this? Like, how's he gonna strike from here? There's a lot of fun to it. And plus, like if you like team play, I mean, like there's always Scotch doubles. That's what I quite enjoy.
In contrast, American football is non-positional, and here all the players can switch to any role during play. It is therefore, that's like hockey. It's therefore
so much of that shit's changed.
Oh yeah. Is therefore a game that's
specialized.
Yeah, there's like quite a bit of specialization in American football. Like there's for a game that at any present is supplanting baseball in general acceptance. It agrees very well with the new needs for a decentralized team play in the electric age. Offhand, it might be supposed that the tight tribal unity of football would make it a game that the Russians would cultivate. Their devotion to their devotion to ice hockey and soccer, two very individualistic forms of game, would seem little suited to the psychic needs of a collectivist society. But Russia is still in the main an oral tribal world that is undergoing detribalization and just that's what Spangler said, by the way, and just now discovering about Russia and just now discovering individualism as a novelty. Soccer and ice hockey have for them therefore an exotic and utopian quality of promise that they do not convey to the West. This is a quality that we tend to call snob value, and we might derive some similar value from owning racehorses, polo ponies, or 12-meter yachts. Well, I would disagree because the Russian teams did have more of an emphasis on athleticism and collective play in terms of actual strategy when it came to ice hockey.
This is also a take that did not age well either.
It didn't age well. Yeah,
because like football became a hyper specialized game.
Yeah. No, but also hockey, because like after the Summit Series, this is what Ken Dryden said, who is the goalie for the Canadian team and who was the famous Montreal Canadiens goaltender. He said like it basically forced us to take ourselves seriously as athletes, because hockey was very much like a working class type of sport. And it wasn't like they weren't real athletes, quote unquote. They weren't training every day. And so it basically forced them to play better. But then, like, there was an incident where the Red Army team came to America and they kept beating like the New York Rangers. They beat like all these American and Canadian teams. And so the league, they're like, what are we going to do? So in the 76, they sick the Philadelphia Flyers on them. And the Philadelphia Flyers like absolutely destroyed them on the ice by just like basically. And they like rage quit halfway through. And they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? So that was funny. Like, you imagine like these highly skilled Russian players, they have to play the Flyers. They have to like, they have to get their like head knocked off by Bobby Clark. That was hilarious. But yeah, no, but the take, I think though, he is correct though, that the medium transforms even things that are integral to what was traditional in America, baseball being like, do people even consider baseball the traditional American sport anymore? Like it's
no.
football now.
It is football. It used to not be. But the culture radically changed. And so the media emphasized. I don't know.
Well, it's like when people say like, it's like these old boomers are like, oh, football went woke. It's like, well, did you expect it not to go woke? I mean, hello, like it's football. It's like the soul of America now. It's like,
yeah, it's nuts.
And the soul of America is doing the fist and with a BLM sign in the end field, so
that's very true.
What do you want?
We'll finish this last section here.
All right.
Games therefore can provide many varieties of satisfaction. Here we are looking at their role as a medium of communication in society as a whole. Thus, poker is a game that has been cited as the expression of all complex attitudes and unspoken values of a competitive society. It calls for shrewdness, aggression, trickery, and unflattering appraisals of character. It is said women cannot play poker well because it stimulates their curiosity, and curiosity is fatal in poker. Poker is intensely individualist, allowing no place for kindness or consideration, but only for the greatest good of the greatest number, the number one. In this perspective, it is easy to see why war has been called the sport of kings. For kingdoms are to monarchs what patrimonies and private income are to the private citizen. Kings can play poker with their kingdoms as the generals of their armies do with their troops. They can bluff. They can deceive the opponent without their resources about their resources and intentions. What disqualifies war from being a true game is probably what also disqualifies the stock market and business. The rules are not fully known nor accepted by all the players.
Mm-hmm.
Furthermore, the audience is too fully participant in war and business, just as in a native society, there's no true art because everyone is engaged in making art. Art and games need rules, conventions, spectators. They must stand forth from the overall situation as models in order for the quality of play to persist. For play, whether in life or in a wheel, implies interplay. There must be give and take or dialogue between two or more persons and groups. That kind of gets into the what is an RPG definition, dialogue tree, etc. This quality can, however, be diminished or lost in any kind of situation. Great teams often play practice games without any audience at all. This is not sport in our sense because much of the quality of interplay, the very medium of interplay, as it were, is the feeling of the audience. Rocket Richard, the Canadian hockey player, used to comment on the poor acoustics of some arenas. He felt that the puck off his stick rode on the roar of the crowd. Sport as a popular art form is not just self-expression, but is deeply and necessarily a means of interplay within an entire culture.
Yeah, I can imagine Rocket Richard saying,
absolutely true.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's true. That's why I think like in the television age, pro wrestling really took off. Like it was geared towards that, you know, like the spectacle. That's also a sport, like sports entertainment. Now everything is sports entertainment. Football is sports entertainment. UFC is sports entertainment. You don't think UFC is sports entertainment? It's like, come on, I can't, you know.
Is the last true sport now just like Robot Wars?
Yeah. No, being Robot Wars is like sports entertainment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I greatly appreciate just sort of the.
It's wrestling. It's
I
wrestling
grew up
for
with
nerds.
it. It's wrestling for nerds. Absolutely, and I loved it. It was great.
They still have BattleBots. Eh?
They sure do. Although I haven't watched it in forever because
it's pretty good. Like
I'm sure there's a lot of programming socks types in there now.
I really like I really liked Robot Wars because they had like the house robots, like Sergeant Doom or whatever if his name was.
Well, yeah, I mean it literally had the literal, you know, personality types that you'd see in pro wrestling.
Yeah,
funny. I would watch that, but I would never watch pro wrestling.
They should bring back American Gladiator. You remember American Gladiator?
I do.
Yeah.
I also remember Junkyard Wars.
Oh yeah, man, that was cool. I loved that when I was a kid. Yeah.
Apparently, Congressman Thomas Massey is in an episode of Junkyard Wars.
Yeah, that's right. I forget what his team name was, but
I forget as well. I know he tweeted about it not too long ago. I just thought it was really
Mike O'Hearn was an American Gladiator.
There you go.
Yeah, I like O'Hearn memes. You know.
But I mean, like the games is a reflection of culture. Like, I mean, that's true. Like the interplay between us as the audience. I mean, like you saw this sort of like the weird like politicization about like sort of like the race stuff, you know, like Jimmy the Greek making his sort of like bizarre HBD claims about like blacks versus whites and sports and football, and I got him in trouble and fired and all that. But it's just like a reflection of the culture, like the interplay between the commentator and the sport, and then like the outside public consensus about certain political issues, all comes crashing in. And so the interplay between like the audience, the people, you know, is a reflection of that. So like now. Again, they're like, oh, these people that are trying to like make everything like woke or whatever. Like 40K is a great example. Like really, like, oh, there's always been female custodians or whatever, and it's just like, well, no, there hasn't been. And the people that are like bowing down to this have never played this shit before, and they're not into it. But again, it's that interplay between the broader cultural consensus changing the culture of the games, as McLuhan points out. So I mean, some of this is not aged well, like, oh, things being decentralized and there's not going to be hyper specialization. That's definitely true. But the crux of interplay is definitely true. And I think that plays very well to our politics as well online. Like the interplay between all these factions and subgroups and fandoms all plays out in this like weird, overly gamified cesspool that is twitter.com.
Yeah, but what about video games though? Like I know there's MLG or whatever, but video games still remain like a highly specialized, highly individualist, like people that watch Let's Plays.
Well, I mean, like I mean, like team sports, absolutely. I mean, like the whole esports phenomenon. I mean, like, that's been there since the beginning, right? Like especially at least with Quake, you know, like you had like tournaments. John Carmack gave away his Ferrari or Lamborghini or whatever he had, and yeah, like that was a big. But I mean, back then it was also like you actually had to afford. Had to be able to afford a computer or like have a good internet connection and stuff like that. Like now it's because it's now for the masses and because it's really accessible, you know, that's changed, you know.
But also like, I mean, people that are Let's Players, like they're more, it's not like they're, okay, there's MLG people, right? There's like clans, but it's more of like they're more entertainers, they're streamers.
Well, a Let's Play is different from say someone streaming like CS:GO competitively, you know, like a Let's Player is like you are watching someone play a game. I mean, like the horror genre, like that's a whole other thing too. Like the streaming culture has impacted how games are because people will market games based upon their streamability and how much they do so. So I mean, like that the guy who did Lethal Company, like Zeekers, right? Like he's like I think he's like I wrote about this for like the Blaze that hopefully will get published in a physical print, but that's a whole other issue that I'm not going to air my grievances publicly. But like he's like a 20-something-year-old furry, and he's like, yeah, I've been making games for Roblox since I was like 12, and now he's like made a very popular indie game that's got millions of people playing it. But also, why is it popular? Because it's fun to stream, and then all of a sudden, everyone can like be a voice actor, and the parasocial aspect kicks in. And because we live in sort of this gamified, like you mentioned, globalization also helped destroy like the third place, culture, religion, places for people to meet. We go online, and all of a sudden. And like content warning is another game too, where you're literally like filming shit. You're trying to upload it to YouTube to get views. Like literally, a game gamifying the YouTube grind to get views and clicks and stuff like that. All kind of plays into the culture of parasociality and the digital forms of communication. The interplay is now digital less than it is physical, unless you can afford to go to these events or whatever. But even then, you're still watching a screen. You're not watching an arena. And so, yeah, like video games are a weird part because they require hyper specialization, but in a lot of senses, like games can also be super decentralized in that. I mean, like take D&D for instance. Like like there's not just one way to play D&D. There isn't. Like, are you gonna play Pathfinder? Are you gonna play like 3.5? Are you gonna play like 5th edition? What are you gonna do? Are we doing a one shot? Are we doing this multi thing? Are we doing homebrew? And so like the interplay just becomes upon which groups do you want to associate with.
Yeah, but it's funny how like the video games that have made people really popular with like millions upon millions of viewers on YouTube and Twitch or wherever is games that don't have like a set objective. They're like open world, like Minecraft, Roblox. What else am I thinking of?
Thank you, Jacob. I appreciate you. Season 3,
yeah.
Episode 3, Sand Yacht member as the geeks from MIT. There you go. That's the one from Thomas Massey.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, there is games like traditional video games, like people that are streaming Helldivers right now, or people that play Halo, or people that made their bones off of Call of Duty. But like when Minecraft became really popular, then like that sort of streamer let's play culture like took off because it's like Minecraft, you could do anything. It's like the possibilities are endless.
Well, it was also the horror game.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like the fucking Slenderman stuff, like the the Markiplier, the Amnesia, the Dark Descent, the thing that launched PewDiePie's career, basically. Like that's there. I think that the other thing to consider though is like there was also like the walking simulator. You had like De-Wrestler, things that were meant to be like story driven, but now the streaming thing, because like again it is commodified. Like people make their living streaming games. They're also in a lot of ways like work.
Yeah, and MMOs, right? There's like I'm sure there's like World of Warcraft streamers.
But right? I mean, like even nowadays with like live service games, like I got to go log in and do my dailies. Like your game is now a job, and it stopped being entertaining for you.
Yeah, like EVE Online, it's like a job.
Or anyone who does that. I mean, like whereas with at least MMOs, right? Like you had the opportunity to be a part of something, or you could be your own protagonist in your own sort of like RPG where like, yeah, you're up against the world, man. I better join a clan. I better join this group, this guild, and fight my way through it and take on these monsters. I mean, I didn't grow up with that. I just didn't have the opportunity to. But the MMO is basically, I don't know, like dead as it is right now. It's kind of nuts.
Oh yeah. People don't have the attention spans.
Minecraft. Well, also, like, what's the equivalent though, too, right? Like, you have like the whole Elder Scrolls Online, and even then, that's one, it retcons like the absolute living shit out of any previously existing lore. But then two, it's not. I don't think anyone can replicate the model of the early 2000s kind of MMO because it's just.
Those are the real nerds. Those are the old heads, yeah.
Oh yeah, but plus also like the industry is so overly saturated to like nickel and dime you every way. Every way there. So to a point where like someone who builds a game that is representative of their own culture rather than like the global village gets attacked by the hegemon of the global village. So what is that going to mean? Well, Kingdom Come Deliverance, right? That was the whole like, oh man, this is like a really white Christian medieval, Bohemia, Poland area. You're just like, oh, this is, excuse me, read the room. And
well, that's what I mean. They have to like basically they have to create money making machines as well. That's like most video game companies.
Well, yeah, money because it's so damn expensive to make games these days. Well, it is if you're a AAA or AA studio, but
yeah. Why do people hate Todd Howard now? He ruined Fallout, right?
Well,
so
Bethesda's
Well,
Starfield sucks, and I haven't even played it to know that it's bad. But
did Todd Howard go woke? Is that why people hate him?
No, I mean, just Todd Howard's been making the same thing but worse since 2011. Well, actually, really since 2005. Plus, he got Gabe killed off Twitter.
Whoa!
But I mean, Gabe also threatened to kill Todd Howard, so maybe it's got to be careful about what you say.
Gabe Newell, yeah.
Been hating Todd since Skyrim. Yeah, tell me. I mean, like Todd Howard from the captain of the chess club meme from the making of Oblivion to constantly narrowing down what you can do to also not like their reputation's been ruined since Fallout. Well, I would argue since Fallout 4.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, I mean, I'm not a gamer. Like, I have sympathy towards gamers, but like, I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, but like a lot of like, why do gamers put up with this, man? Like the DLCs and getting financially pickpocketed.
I don't have an answer for that one, buddy.
No, but like
I've been playing 20-plus-year-old games for a while because I mean,
but that's what I mean. Bad. Like, just ignore them. Don't give the game companies your money. It's simple. But you can't. You're addicted. Okay, I'm sorry. I mean, I love you, gamers, but please.
Pretty true.
Like, the amount of disrespect gamers take from corporations is incredible. It's like, I don't know, man. It's sad.
Gamers have no self-respect to a large extent. Yeah. To a large extent, yeah. But I mean, I do love
games. Gotta stop going to the slop trough, okay? You gotta stop. I'm sorry. Like, what are those noble souls that started
piracy is a lost art? Yeah, Jev, it is. Because guess what? Every time that you pay Gio money to review a movie, guess who downloads it off the Pirate Bay and gives it to Gio?
No, but think of it. Those noble souls that started Gamergate got canceled for nothing. Will you not, as a gamer, will you not fight for the legacy of Don Sargone? No, I'm kidding. I'm making too much of it. But gamers need some self-respect.
Can we just like briefly mention the fact that like some like lefty like F slur basically has wrote Sargon into a Warhammer book and made him canon?
That's incredible.
I love it. I mean, it's like 10 years too late, but I mean, or almost 10 years too late, but still love it. Great. Fantastic.
That's amazing. That's some
like
that. See that he made them so angry that they have to cancel him in their lore in the video games.
I need to become a bigger
I
need to become a bigger anti-SJW. Apparently,
yeah,
it's a little late for that.
Figure,
but I got to start talking more about like culture stuff. And some dude did kill himself due to those accusations, and the people that were related to the guy also started a consulting company and other stuff that that's the name of the character in the book or whatever.
They weren't even hiding it. They weren't even hiding it.
Of course not. It's great. The immortal Chud. It's fantastic.
Sarkong of Agod.
Yeah, basically.
That's crazy. That's amazing.
Can we get to the super chats, Gio?
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's do it. All right. Well, this week's episode of the Digital Archipelago is sponsored by viewers like you. Your ongoing financial contributions to this show allows Gio and I to continue to do what we do. One enables his lifestyle as a NEET. The other one allows me to escape the awful drudges of the wage cage just for a brief moment. So your ongoing support is greatly appreciated. And with that, we'll start with the ones over on Entropy, and I'll start from the very beginning. He says, the first one is from Seneca, and he says, more Missouri lore, the Sally House. Technically not Missouri, but it's literally on the opposite bank of the Missouri River in Kansas, said to be haunted by the spirit of a little girl named Sally, who allegedly died horribly in that house. Many think Sally is actually a demon because of her, quote, aggressive nature. The hers in quotation marks, but still.
That's worthy of an A24 movie.
That would be worthy, absolutely.
Yeah, or at least Shutter stop. What is it called? Shutter. Yeah,
something.
It's really like a Shutter movie,
Yeah, but still could be good.
Seneca.
Things to look up there. Seneca also says, also happy Easter, Prude. May your octave be blessed. Well, thank you very much. Christ is risen, so enjoy. I will be enjoying my Pascha-tide very much so. Scribe sends $5, and he's asked me, Prude, what was the first thing I ate to break the fast? So we all had our pasta baskets out. I did the same thing I did last year. So I bought a fresh loaf of bread from the bakery. I bought an ungodly amount of deli meats, just stuffed it into my basket with like relish and lettuce and mustard and some onions and other stuff. So I just had a grotesquely large sandwich is what the first thing I had. And I had a little bit of wine. So that's what I did. And I baked a cheesecake. My personal tradition / ritual is anytime there's a great feast in the church or we're about to break a fast or we're about to go into one, I make a cheesecake to just sort of send everyone off on a good note, because that's the one dessert I'm like really, really good at. And I'm rather proud of that. So I had a cheesecake made for everybody, and it was
there you go.
Charlie Mackey asks me, is it still $100 to review a book or game? It's $100 for Geo, but I said in chat and on Entropy, I said I'll do $75 for a video game, especially if I own it already. So
well, a little bit more for a book, though. I mean,
that's why I said the book is $100, but I said for a video game I'll do 75. So he sends $75.
Wow, $75!
So he says, thank you for the stream. I hope things are going well for both of you. Here is $75 to review Cruelty Squad, or if you want something stranger, Book of Hours or Cultist Simulator. Well, I already own Cruelty Squad, so that makes my life a little easier. I'll go review Cruelty Squad. May come out in a month or two, but I will make it happen.
What's Cultist Simulator?
Cultist Simulator is kind of like a card-based game. Mandalore Gaming has a review of it if you're interested. Actually, you would probably like that game just for like the weird interplay of the cards and the social techniques of it all. But that's very kind of you, Mr. Mackey. And so I will go play Cruelty Squad again, take my notes, try and write a script, and I will make a video out of it. So there you go. Sam153 says, happy Pascha. Well, thank you very much. Christ is risen. You guys listen to the hilarious AI music being pumped out recently. Also, RIP TMLs. I don't know what that's in reference to. So, Sam, if you could tell me what you mean by TMLs, I would appreciate it. I have listened to some of them. I hate the fact that I enjoy it because I know it's AI music and crap, but there's this YouTube channel called like Obscurest Vinyl, and they're just pumping out like AI songs and the styles of like all these musicians.
The ones that Kung Lee Drew makes, like those
are great too. But like, so there's one out there called
TML Trail Maple Leafs, R.I.P. Trail Maple Leafs, yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
thank you.
The thing is, I'm looking forward to Brad Treliving giving a scalpel to the whole team. So hopefully this is the last year Sheldon Keefe is the coach. So thank God.
The Dr. So there's one out there called
Dr. BWC.
So I have to find that one. I have to go listen to that one. But no, there's one called paid to shit on company time. And the beat is really good. Like it does catch you in. And I first listened to it like a few days ago when it came out, and I lost my shit. Like I shouldn't be laughing about a song where you get paid shit on company time. But like it's really, I'll send it to you, Gio. It's really fun. I can't play it on stream for obvious reasons.
Sam said rubbing and tugging these dips. I love how it's this Trailer Park Boys reference to rub and tug.
Oh my gosh.
That's a true Canadian right there.
That's very true. But yeah, there's some out there that are really funny. Yeah, the Rodney Munch. It's time to take a shit on the company's dime. That's the one you can go. That's what it's called, and it's really funny.
I'm gonna look it up.
It's really good. Yeah, the best 45 minutes of my life. It's so funny. Seneca says, more bonus Missouri lore. The Devil's Chair of Kirksville, Missouri. The Devil's Chair, also known as the Bard Chair, is a stone seat in a local graveyard in Kirksville. Legend has it, if you sit upon it at midnight, then an undead hand will drag you to hell.
Whoa!
That's one hell of a piece of lore. There you go.
How much Missouri lore is there?
Hey, each American state has a wide depth of history and lore and legend. So, why not?
Man, I didn't know Missourians were that superstitious. That's
well, I mean,
crazy.
Americans are very
Americans
superstitious.
generally. Yeah.
Capitalissimo says, great show tonight, fellas. Glad the time slot change hasn't hurt the flow. No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Normally we do it on Tuesdays, but I unfortunately will be at work on Tuesday late, so I will not have that opportunity. But that's okay.
Wait, this week or in general?
No, this Tuesday. That's why we're doing it on Monday.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, like if it wasn't on Tuesday, we would be doing it then. But unfortunately, I'm going to be having a long day tomorrow. But that's okay.
Capitalissimo. Wait, but what if? But if it's a chair, where does the hand grab you?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Use your imagination.
Use your imagination, you perverts. All right, Mike Pohl for $20. He says,
$20.
There you go. Let's effing go on a Monday, boys. Gio, I'm sad to inform you that full Teenage Dirtbag remix will be delayed till further in the week, but it's coming along swimmingly.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
I guess he's got a music remix for you. There you
go. That was lore because I tweeted Teenage Dirtbag remix, but it's like an incel and e-girl. It's a right-wing incel and e-girl. So yeah, that's like. Did you see that one that Mittens posted on Twitter with the Teenage Dirtbag?
No, you'll have to send it to me.
Oh my god! It says, "Be nice to your bros, because one day one will become your wife." You didn't see that?
No!
Yeah. It's just
I've seen a few of those tweets. Unfortunately, I didn't know there was a Teenage Dirtbag thing with it, but okay.
Yeah, it's vile. It's
okay.
The kid's like an Iranian or something too. He's like an Arab kid.
Oh boy. Wrestling with Wormwood for $4.99 says, God bless you both. Both keep posting, keep streaming. Well, we will.
Thank you, Wrestling with Wormwood.
We will keep doing what we do.
One of our strongest soldiers on Twitter.
It's a lot of fun. Oh yeah, here's another thing that we can tell you to support. Orange book, The Total State. It comes out tomorrow. And if you go to the OGC conference later this June, tickets are still on sale. You will get signed copies of the book yourself.
Who's published? Is it? Do the Blaze have a publishing house?
That's a great question. Who did publish The Total State? Let's see. Who? Let's go find out.
Antelope Hill. No, we're ain't gonna get published by Antelope Hill.
That's actually really fucking funny. Hold on. Let's go to find out. Who is the publisher?
I think the Blaze has a publishing house.
Oh, I'm sure. I was looking up on Amazon to see who had it, but yeah, I can't tell. But Bolero393 says, I wish we could give the GOP 0 seats. We mentioned this on the air. America's too gerrymandered for that to ever happen.
I wish both parties would lose.
It's a shame both can't lose. I mean, Trump should win, but it's a shame both parties can't lose. Bolero, again, for $5 says, GOP election strategies make more sense when you've got to remember that they have to lose gracefully and get a pat on the head from the New York Times. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Outer party shit stuff.
Only now things are so politically crazy and off the wall that they don't even get a pat in the head anymore. So what's the point?
They just get called a fascist.
Yeah. It's a weird world where like Josh Hawley gets called a fascist,
Yeah, it's a weird rule. Subhuman Gaucho for $1.99. He says, what shirt are you wearing, Gio? He says he loves it.
Oh, it's just a floral pattern t-shirt. It's one of my favorites. So it's like a Hawaiian shirt, but a t-shirt. So
there you go.
Yeah, I got it at a Big and Tall store.
Joshua BB for $4.99 says, create separation between citizens and civilians, and states will work to create more citizens for representation and market for excellence in population. Yeah, I mean, like
it's Robert Heinlein model.
Well, yeah, but also like in America, like it doesn't matter if you're a citizen or not, because as long as you're a warm body living in an area when we do the census, that means more congressional representation, which is why illegal immigration still needs to be removed. Jacob for $5 American. He says, when does Twin Peaks get good? I got to episode 11. You're not going to make it. You're just not going to make it.
If we don't like it by episode 11, it's over.
Future mass grave occupant. You're just not
Gio loves this hibiscus. I do love hibiscus pattern shirts. Yeah, I do.
Bolero393 for $2 says, the worst thing in pro sports is female commentators. I would just say like the general like fake and gay social messaging. I could live with a female commentator if it was like a more, I don't know, if it was like the Man Show and like she was dressed like a cheerleader giving it, I would be okay with that. Like I know that's a little, I guess you could say that's not very trad of me to say, but like, hey, I would do anything to promote more healthy heterosexuality in this country.
They have that one on Hockey in Canada. They got that one female commentator. She's like, I don't know, she's not that great, but could be worse.
There you go.
It's too bad Don Cherry's too old because but they kicked him out.
Stan Leroy Slade. I can't believe it's all over. What do we do now? What do you mean? We can finally play the game. Cartman replies, "Make love, not Warcraft." South Park.
Oh, that was great for $10.
Oh god.
With Bill Phosphorus Night.
Probably one of the most famous episodes of.
We had, oh my god, in high school, we had a shop teacher. He was like a huge WoW nerd. He had his own servers, and he like let us watch that episode one time in class. He was our auto teacher. Yeah. It was funny. Mr. Roscoe, if you're a right-wing anon, Mr. Roscoe, I hope you're listening to this.
I'm thinking about my old student.
I wonder what Gio's doing.
Such a quirky little right-winger.
You never know, because like they could either go like total leftoid, like Chuck Wendig types, or they could become like a right-wing anon. Like those early nerds, the old head of nerds,
Seasider says, you mentioned you're into cryptozoology the other week. What are your thoughts on Todd Standing? And did you know that Sargon doesn't believe in Dogman?
What the hell?
Really?
I denounce Sargon now.
I didn't know that.
I love how King Samphis said before that Sargon ruined his Gamergate crap by saying be respectful to women.
Isn't Todd Standing like the guy who did the whole discovering Bigfoot thing a couple years ago?
I think so.
I haven't seen the documentary, so I don't know. But like, there was I think it was like Frog Butt or one of our mutuals that was like, all Bigfoot sightings are just like accidental discoveries of black people like hiking. I thought that was so funny.
I mean, they could be like aliens, right? That's why you can't discover their bodies. But there's a lot of theories about.
Nah, I don't think. I honestly got it. There's probably some shit.
There probably is some early hominid kicking around somewhere. Just
there is some like, well, I mean, especially in North America, like there's some weird Nephilim shit we have not killed off in this country. Like, let's not kid ourselves. But
they killed one in the Gowat. They killed one in Tora Bora.
Like
a giant.
That is my favorite thing about all those like leaked Hillary emails, where it's like Nephilim and it's like Babylon, and I'm like, excuse me.
The best was the artist rendition and the one soldiers, the special forces guys, just sort of like, what are we gonna do now?
Honest to God, like out of all the the fictional cryptozoology like fictional universes, even like SCP shit, it's just like the most realistic thing is that like all the human aligned forces that aren't like the Foundation or whatever, they're just like kill it, wipe it from existence, it must be destroyed. And I'm like,
that's it. Yeah,
that's it. Like the American government right there. I'm all for it. Like, let's end it. It would make a great war movie, like, just like in America, like just give me the X-Files, but instead of like, oh, there's a grand government conspiracy, no, it's Monster of the Week and how do these good old boys kill it? Like, I want that. Give me an episode where like an Appalachian, like rural, like West Virginia police department gets a random ass phone call every week, and they're like, all right, boys, like load up. Some of you are not gonna make it.
Oh,
and we
man.
gotta do shit,
There's always rumors, like it's always a special forces unit in the middle of nowhere that discovers some cryptoid that they accidentally shoot.
Give it to me. Just give it.
Like the giant was killed by the Navy SEALs. There was an allegation that an SS unit in World War II actually was on a deep forest mission in the battle. I think it was Battle of the Bulge, and they ended up killing a Bigfoot apparently, but they buried it in some cave. There's this rumor that an SS unit.
I want to believe.
Yeah.
I want to believe so bad. And that, unfortunately, there is. Well, I don't want to say unfortunately. There's one more, and now I've got to I'm gonna have to get an emulator installed on my computer. Sam153 says, I had to do it. Request to review Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem for the GameCube. I think maybe you'll like it. And he sends $100. And that's...
Whoa!
I gotta go.
$100!
All right. Eternal Darkness Sanity's Requiem. All right. Eternal Darkness is an action-adventure video game developed by Silicon Knights, invented by the Nintendo GameCube. All right. Well, I got to go download or get an emulator set up. But okay. So CyberChud 2077 says it is a good game, big support. All right. Well, I've never played it before, so this will be fun.
There you go.
I wonder if, hold on, let me go check GOG.
The Kandahar Giant. That's what I was referring to.
Yeah, the Kandahar Giant.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can go find it.
Pru will have his game/video essay channel yet.
Oh, finally. No, you've given me a reason to. Oh, it's not on GOG. Oh, my life is over. All right. Well, it doesn't matter. If there's not a PC port to it, I'll just get an emulator and it'll work out. I do want. I have a second channel made. And automatically Scribe is DMing me on Discord saying like, you just got to get the Dolphin emulator going. All right, cool. Works for me. Well, that would be the last super chat of the evening. I will be having a Real Talk fishing video premiere this Thursday. There will be a subscriber, patron, Substack essay tomorrow. And then I have something very special for patrons later. You'll see it early, I should say. This Thursday, I am starting a Venture Brothers retrospective and review with TR Hudson and Capitalissimo. So on Thursday evening, he and I are going to record that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Nice.
So we're gonna review seasons 1 and 2 this Thursday. I'll record it. I'll upload it for patrons to enjoy. I don't know when I'm going to upload that for the main channel. And then yeah, so I'm again. My Holy Week is over. Pascha has passed. I'm back onto the content mill, and I will be busy learning how to get Dolphin set up, and I will be playing Cruelty Squad. Maybe I'll play that on the air one of these days again. Nice. What about you, Gio? What have you been up to?
Well, I have to get some of these reviews going, so hopefully by the end of the week I'll have one done. I wanted to record another Content Minded, but I'll probably be editing the Mr. D episode. So
let's go.
Yeah, it'll be good. So yeah, the content has to keep flowing, and yeah. So we'll see you next week on my channel.
Yep. We'll hopefully be live on our normal regular time on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on Gio's channel next week, and then, as always, more stuff to come. Your ongoing viewership and support keeps the show going. We love what you do. We will continue to be airing the Digital Archipelago as long as we possibly can. And with that, Christ is risen. Happy Easter, everyone. And we'll see you all next time.
God bless. Goodbye, too. Sweet.
See you, gents.